In a world where trust is a deadly currency, a cold-blooded blonde woman in a red gown seals a tragic fate, mockingly offering to raise a mother's child as she banishes her into the shadows. Clutching her precious newborn to her chest in a dimly lit corridor, a pink-haired woman desperately tries to shield her child from the impending nightmare. Her heart breaks as she looks down at her innocent, smiling baby, crying out in absolute despair over why her own flesh and blood is being stolen from her. Peerless cruelty shines in the blonde woman's cold, golden eyes as she hides behind her crimson fan, sneering that she will easily replace the real mother. With a chilling whisper, her gaze sharpens, hinting at a far more sinister scheme lurking behind her beautiful mask. Sweating and weeping in pure terror, the pink-haired woman is paralyzed by the horrifying truth of her reality. Suddenly, the pink-haired young woman wakes up in her academy uniform, gasping for air as a haunting warning about her limited lifespan echoes in her mind. Trembling with fear, she tightly grips her bedsheet as she questions the dark meaning behind those ominous words. She recalls her past, remembering her parents who dedicated their lives to uncovering the world's most mysterious and powerful ancient artifacts. Growing up, her childhood home was filled with relics of unimaginable power, strictly forbidden from being touched. As a curious little girl, the young pink-haired Iris couldn't help but stare in awe at a glowing golden astrolabe. Her mother presents her with a golden pocket mirror, explaining its extraordinary power to reveal the future exactly 3 times. Her mother gives her a gentle smile, reminding her to use this mystic power with the utmost caution. Giggling with pure joy, young Iris has no idea of the dark storm waiting for her in the years ahead. After her mother's passing, the closed golden mirror remained the only precious keepsake left behind, prompting her to lock its secrets away and vow never to gaze into its reflecting surface again. Years later, amidst the bustling excitement of the Academy's grand annual festival, the long-forgotten memory of the magic mirror suddenly flashes in her mind. Sitting alone in a luxurious parlor, she looks out the window, lost in deep contemplation as the festival carries on outside. Outside, an energetic student enthusiastically invites passersby to have their fortunes told at a festival booth. Clutching the golden keepsake, Iris wonders if her own future holds anything truly extraordinary or if she is bound to a mundane fate. She contemplates her arranged marriage to her fiancé, Theo Murphy, a union meant to dictate the rest of her life after graduation. Her sole purpose in this high society alliance is to provide an heir to the powerful Murphy family business. Suddenly, she sits up on the sofa, a sudden realization washing over her as she decides to challenge the predetermined path laid out by her noble peers. Reflecting on how Duke Murphy sponsored her entry into this prestigious academy, she realizes there was a dark, calculated motive hidden behind his sudden generosity. The Duke's support was merely a transaction to ensure she would quickly bear a child for the Murphy family name. As she turns away, her mind races with anxiety over the suffocating expectations placed upon her. With trembling fingers, she holds the golden magic mirror, preparing to unlock the forbidden visions of what lies ahead. Drifting off into a restless sleep, she enters a realm where dreams and reality blur together. Her eyes slowly flutter open as a strange, magical force pulls her consciousness into the reflective surface of the mirror. The magic mirror pops open, revealing a brilliant, blinding light that pierces through the darkness. A faded, tragic vision appears of a man holding a young child next to a pink-haired woman whose back is turned. Amidst a blood-red haze, she realizes she would rather face a harsh known truth than live in agonizing uncertainty as a helpless woman. The chilling voice of the blonde woman in red echoes once more, mockingly asking if she wants her son to be attached to her since she has so little time left to live. The devastating realization hits her that she is destined to die shortly after childbirth, only for her husband Theo to move on and marry another woman. The grand ceiling of the Academy Infirmary looms overhead as her mind reels from the shocking revelations of her tragic future. Waking up, she instantly notices the sharp, cold scent of disinfectant filling the air. Sitting up in her infirmary bed, she processes the grim prophecy of her early demise and her fiancé's cold betrayal. Exhausted and overwhelmed, she decides it is best to lie back down and rest, only to be startled by an unexpected presence in the room. Standing before her is none other than her fiancé, Theo, a handsome black-haired young man with striking blue eyes dressed in his formal academy uniform. Feeling incredibly guilty, Iris looks away and quickly apologizes for causing him any trouble during the busy festival. Theo stares down at her with an unreadable expression, his sharp jawline and cold demeanor radiating a quiet, imposing authority. Theo quietly reassures her that she caused him no trouble at all, though his tone remains completely detached. Iris looks up in surprise at his unusually mild response, her bright blue eyes wide with curiosity. She notes the prestigious student council emblem on his chest, reminding her of his high status and busy schedule at the academy. Lost in her thoughts, she admits to herself that she lacks the mental energy to navigate the complex social politics of the festival today. In a sudden comedic twist, a chibi Iris is left completely flabbergasted when Theo bluntly remarks that he never expected his own fiancée to collapse and abandon him like that. Shrinking back in embarrassment, she softly apologizes once more, unable to look him in the eye as the guilt of her sudden collapse weighs heavily on her mind. Theo looks down thoughtfully, his gaze softening ever so slightly as he processes her fragile state. He reveals that the academy doctor diagnosed her with severe anemia, advising her to seek immediate professional care once they return home. Iris quickly tries to brush it off, insisting she only felt a bit dizzy, but Theo firmly demands she visit the family doctor to avoid facing her grandfather's wrath. She laments the extreme, suffocating pressure of her health regimen, remembering how Duke Murphy forced her to undergo constant medical checkups and maintain a strict diet to ensure she was fit to bear a healthy heir. Caught in a web of cruel fate, Iris stares blankly as she realizes her inescapable, tragic destiny of dying shortly after childbirth. Gripping her sheets in anger, she questions how multiple health screenings failed to notice her terminal illness, knowing the Duke only selected her as a healthy bloodline vessel. Determination flares in her chest as she decides she must find out if this fatal sickness is already dormant within her or yet to strike. Taking a firm step forward, her fiancé coldly announces his immediate departure from the room. Iris looks back in surprise, suggesting that he should stay at least until the school festival concludes. She freezes in place, completely stunned by his indifferent behavior. Theo clarifies that he only wishes to change his soiled uniform and promises to return shortly. Watching him walk away, she reminds herself of his obsessive neatness, cautioning herself against mistaking his cold habit for genuine concern. Left in the quiet room, a heavy, suffocating silence settles over her once more. Outside the walls, the prestigious academy grounds bask in the warm afternoon glow, oblivious to the secrets unfolding inside. A luxurious carriage departs, its heavy wheels churning as Iris is taken back home. Sitting opposite each other in the rumbling carriage, the unspoken tension between the engaged couple grows thicker. Iris narrows her eyes in deep concentration as her mind drifts back to the mysterious blonde woman from her vision. The stunning visage of Mia Craven flashes in her mind, a beautiful yet sinister noblewoman with long golden hair. Her heart races as she recalls Mia's status as the Duke's favorite goddaughter and Theo's distant relative. She remembers how Mia would frequently visit the Grand Murphy Castle back during their childhood days. Connecting the clues, she deduces that Mia harbored a burning ambition to marry Theo all along. Yet, Mia was forced to suppress her dark desires out of sheer terror of the dominating Duke. Iris ponders why Mia would boldly banish her, given that the Duke highly favored and trusted Iris above all others. A chilling revelation strikes everyone in high society knew that the Duke's time was quickly running out. She realizes the tyrannical Duke was destined to pass away, finally clearing the path for Mia's grand scheme. Armed with these puzzle pieces, she realizes she must assess the situation with absolute clarity. A dark doubt creeps into her mind. Was Mia acting alone, or did Theo secretly want her gone as well? Staring out into the passing landscape, her heart is gripped by a sudden, terrifying loneliness. Clenching her hands tightly, she wonders if her fiancé has secretly loved another woman this entire time. Sensing her intense gaze, Theo shifts his eyes toward her, catching her completely off guard. Flustered by her own thoughts, she stammers and quickly tries to brush off his silent inquiry. Sweat beads on her temple as she struggles to maintain her composure under his piercing blue gaze. Knowing she cannot live in agonizing doubt, she gathers her courage to ask him the ultimate question. Theo stares back with his usual cool and unreadable expression, waiting for her to continue. Breaking the heavy silence, Iris boldly asks him if his heart belongs to someone else. She tries to ease the tension by reminding him of their fast-approaching graduation in 4 months. Theo's handsome face darkens slightly as he processes her sudden change of topic. His voice drops coldly as he admits he has absolutely no idea what she is implying. Iris softly reminds him of their binding reality, where neither of them has any choice but to go through with this political union. She reasons that if he truly loves someone else, he should have the power to break off their engagement. She gazes up, hoping to catch even a sliver of genuine emotion in his icy eyes. Theo sharply questions if she is trying to back out of the binding agreement made with his grandfather. Iris clarifies her loyalty while secretly lamenting that she was merely a puppet investment to the Duke. She trails off, hesitant to reveal the terrifying truth she saw in her future. Theo keeps his gaze fixed on her, sensing the heavy burden she is hiding. Panicking, Iris raises her hands to frantically apologize and correct any misunderstanding. His hand tightens as he bluntly asks if her true desire is simply to escape marrying him. As the carriage rattles on, she silently trembles, knowing the horrific vision she witnessed makes her old submissive life impossible to accept. In a comedic turn of events, Theo warns her that any secret lover would have to run for his life to escape the Duke's wrath, leaving Iris sweating in sheer panic. Forcing a weak smile, she claims her sudden anxiety is merely pre-graduation jitters and begs him to forget her words. Theo stares back in silence, clearly unsatisfied with her flimsy excuse. He slowly turns his head away, choosing to let the matter rest for now as the tension lingers. A blush rises to her cheeks as she wonders if she has successfully evaded his suspicion. With a hard, focused look, Theo remains lost in his own calculations as the carriage speeds toward their unpredictable future. A freezing winter storm sets a chilling stage for her destiny. Born of noble blood, the pink-haired girl possesses sharp intellect. High society whispers gossip about the Duke's son and a commoner. The terminally ill son begs his father to protect young Theo Murphy. Grieving his late son, the guilt-ridden Duke deeply regrets his past negligence. The Duke vows to raise his grandson under strict absolute control. To enforce this protection, the Duke secludes Theo like a caged bird. The grandfather carefully ponders how to select the perfect companion for Theo. He chooses a young noble girl to raise and mold himself. A heavy carriage speeds through the snow, carrying her to her fate. Inside the freezing carriage, the young girl shivers in fear. The carriage lanterns flicker dimly against the endless howling blizzard outside. Her stern guardian commands her to obey the Duke absolutely. The young girl nods in fearful compliance, her eyes wide with dread. She recalls her late father, Baron Roca, a famous scientist. Her dark-haired guardian gently reminds her of her deceased parents' love. Accepting her tragic reality, the grieving girl quietly voices her submission. Clenching her small hands, she dreads entering the cold stone castle. Tears well up as she mourns her parents' lost worth. She harbors deep bitterness over the tragedy that stole her family. News of her father's untimely demise captures widespread international attention. Despite her father's fame, she is left entirely alone and grieving. Staring blankly, she feels trapped inside a surreal, icy winter nightmare. The rumbling carriage wheels finally halt, signaling their arrival at last. She takes a tentative first step, her boots sinking into deep snow. She shields her face from the biting wind and the storm. In the distance, the colossal castle looms like an imposing fortress. Trudging forward, she follows a silent maid through the freezing landscape. Every step is a struggle as the freezing wind rages on. Steeling her resolve, she hopes to find warmth behind the doors. Standing in the doorway is Duke Murphy, radiating sheer, terrifying authority. The Duke looks down with a sharp, calculating gaze that paralyzes her. Sensing a silent test, she instantly distrusts the imposing noble before her. She fears he might reject her and abandon her in the store. Looking down, she realizes simple comforts will be a luxury here. Gripping her skirts, she gathers the courage to stand her ground. Performing an elegant curtsy, she formally introduces herself to her guardian. She explains that she is named Iris after a purple flower. She proudly shares that her name represents a beautiful, bright rainbow. Seemingly satisfied, the smiling Duke holds out his gloved hand. He expresses approval of her name, welcoming her to the castle. Little does she know, this meeting is merely the tragic beginning. She quickly learns that her every single move is being monitored. She warily eyes the servants, wondering if they spy for the Duke. Despite the strict surveillance, she tries to adjust to her isolation. Clutching her warm collar, she shivers from the persistent indoor cold. The massive castle walls stand strong, shielding them from the storm. High chandeliers illuminate cavernous hallways, yet the estate remains eerily quiet. Staring at her trembling hands, she feels the palace's freezing atmosphere. Desperate for warmth, she searches for a single ally in the castle. Hidden deep within the Duke's freezing estate lies a secret sanctuary of warmth and life. Lush greenery and indoor streams create a peaceful oasis where Iris frequently seeks comfort. Sitting on a garden bench, the pink-haired girl uses reading as her perfect escape. Walking along the stone path, Iris's purple-bowed shoes click softly against the ground. Iris considers making a floral bouquet, noticing that the estate's servants have grown increasingly distant. Pushing open the heavy glass door, she steps inside to seek temporary solace. She realizes the staff only watch her in silence under the Duke's unspoken orders. Standing in the vibrant garden, she remembers her initial goal to win over Duke Murphy. Recognizing that the Duke never visits the greenhouse, Iris resolves to find another way. Suddenly, she pauses in surprise as an unexpected rustling catches her attention. Peering through the dense foliage, she spots a mysterious figure standing among the bushes. Iris stares wide-eyed, completely caught off guard by the stranger's presence. A breathtaking red-haired woman with brilliant green eyes turns around, questioning Iris's presence. Stunned by her radiant beauty, Iris can only stare in sheer awe. The red-haired woman gently asks if the young girl has lost her way. She flashes a warm, pure smile that immediately melts Iris's lingering defenses. Her soft, friendly voice echoes with a warmth Iris hasn't felt in ages. Iris notes how rare it is to be treated with such gentle kindness here. Gathering her courage, she politely explains that she only came to pick flowers. The red-haired woman warns her that the garden's beautiful flowers carry painful thorns. Iris hesitates, looking up at her beautiful savior in quiet contemplation. Insisting that the roses are too lovely to ignore, the stranger offers to help. Without hesitation, a slender hand reaches directly toward a sharp, thorny red rose. She plucks the blooming red rose with effortless grace, seemingly unfazed by the thorns. She cheerily hands the rose over, leaving Iris panicking about her potentially injured hands. The woman casually brushes off the concern, claiming her hands are tough enough. Her soft expression reveals a deeper, hidden understanding of pain and survival. Turning back with a smile, she reassures Iris that she is there to help. Iris blinks in astonishment as she notices a bizarre detail about the elegant lady. Looking down, Iris is shocked to realize the red-haired woman is completely barefoot. The two stand side by side, a stark contrast to formal expectation and wild freedom. Standing proudly in her elegant green gown, the woman exudes an aura of untamed grace. She explains she shed her shoes to find comfort while feeling downcast. Iris eagerly agrees, admitting that stiff, noble shoes can be incredibly uncomfortable. She confesses that the cold makes her shoes squeeze her toes, though she hides this. The red-haired woman expresses her gratitude before asking if Iris is Lady Cullen's daughter. Fear of being thrown out of the castle keeps Iris from correcting the misunderstanding. Clenching her skirt, Iris softly admits that her parents died, leaving her homeless. The red-haired woman gasps in horror, her green eyes wide with deepest sympathy. When asked if she is truly all right, Iris automatically puts on a brave face. The woman's heart aches at how a child could carry such devastating grief alone. A single heavy tear wells up in Iris's blue eye as a dam begins to break. Looking upon the grieving child, the red-haired woman's eyes soften with maternal sorrow. Overwhelmed by the sudden rush of pent-up emotion, Iris begins to choke back sobs. Finally letting go of her heavy burden, she buries her face and weeps. Her heartbreaking cries echo softly through the peaceful sanctuary of the glass greenhouse. The red-haired woman praises her incredible strength for enduring such immense tragedy alone. Sobbing uncontrollably, Iris tearfully thanks her new companion for the kind words. Offering her a safe space, the kind woman invites Iris to visit her whenever she needs comfort. As the grand castle looms in the background, a fateful bond of warmth is forged in the freezing winter. But what dark secrets does this mysterious barefoot savior hide? Seeking a single true ally, Iris immediately senses the red-haired woman's genuine goodness. Her heavy mask of stoicism crumbles as tears begin to fall. Gripping her dress, Iris prepares to share her deepest hidden fears. Desperate to protect her dignity, Iris begs her savior to keep her tears a secret. She confesses her terrifying childhood fear of being caught crying by the terrifying Duke Murphy. The woman warmly declares them secret-sharing friends, solidifying Iris's trust in her kindness. Iris freezes in sudden shock as an unexpected sound shatters the quiet greenhouse. Heavy, deliberate footsteps echo nearby, signaling an approaching presence. Iris rolls around in sheer terror of the sudden and fluffs. A cold command suddenly cuts through the air, telling the stranger she must depart. Stepping into the light is young Theo Murphy, his gaze cold and unwelcoming. Iris gasps in recognition, whispering Theo's name under her breath. The red-haired woman reassures Iris that her son is exceptional at keeping secrets. With a surprisingly mature calm, Theo promises that her secret is safe with them. Stunned by their unexpected warmth, Iris is left completely speechless. The red-haired woman flashes one last bright, comforting smile. Offering a parting farewell, she promises they will meet again soon. The massive, magnificent glass sanctuary stands quiet once more. The scene shifts to the oppressive, gold-trimmed dark corridors of the main castle. Determined to make a positive impression, Iris walks down the hall carrying a beautiful rose bouquet. She hesitates at the heavy door, peeking inside with a beating heart. Inside the grand office, Duke Murphy reviews documents with his loyal, silver-haired butler. Taking a deep breath, Iris steps inside the massive, intimidating room. The Duke looks up, his sharp eyes instantly locking onto his young ward. With trembling hands, Iris carefully places her floral arrangement on his desk. Staring down at the vibrant red roses, the Duke questions what she has brought. Iris nervously explains she picked them from the nursery and offers to remove them if disliked. Silence fills the room as the Duke slowly taps his finger in contemplation. When the butler asks about her skills, Iris reveals her late mother taught her. The butler recalls that Iris's mother, Baroness Roca, famously arranged the Empress's wedding flowers. Absorbing this revelation, the Duke quietly acknowledges the connection. Clutching her hands, Iris realizes with dread that her plans are falling apart. A cold sweat breaks out as she realizes the Duke already knows everything about her. She silently questions her own foolishness for attempting to please him. She waits in agonizing silence, dreading his harsh judgment. The Duke directly demands to know why she is trying so hard to please him. Iris gasps, completely caught off guard by his direct confrontation. She remains paralyzed, unable to find the right words to reply. A subtle, calculating smirk plays on the Duke's lips. He mockingly asks if she is offering a bribe to win his favor. Overwhelmed by his complicated nature, Iris realizes the severe gravity of her mistake. Terrified, she wonders if she should simply nod and accept his accusation. She panics internally, desperately trying to formulate a safe response. Clenching her skirt, she prepares to speak. The Duke watches her struggle with an amused, superior expression. To her utter shock, he finds her compliance amusing and acknowledges her submission. Satisfied with her obedience, he orders his butler to hire a private tutor for her starting tomorrow. Stunned, Iris immediately voices her obedience to his absolute decree. She is deeply touched, realizing this is the first time he has acknowledged her by her actual name. But her relief is instantly shattered as the Duke reveals his deep, violent hatred for flowers. Duke Murphy's terrifyingly cold gaze softens into a calculating smirk as he accepts her floral offering. A bombshell drops as the Duke casually suggests their future bloodline will inherit her love for flowers, leaving Iris utterly speechless. Sensing the tense atmosphere, the butler catches the Duke's silent command to bring forward the heir. High above the grand hall, the Duke's voice echoes with a new command to introduce Iris to young Theo. Deep within the sprawling quarters of the castle, a fateful meeting is about to take place. Standing silently with a massive book, young Theo awaits her with a chillingly cold gaze. This beautiful yet distant boy carries the heavy burden of ruling the entire Morfino Duchy. Iris freezes in place as she stares directly at the boy she met in the secret greenhouse. She marvels at his striking black hair and piercing blue eyes, finding him as terrifying as he is beautiful. Panic sets in as she wonders how to navigate this incredibly awkward second meeting. Stealing her resolve, Iris decides her best strategy is to pretend they have never met before. She steps forward under the butler's watchful gaze, preparing to play her part. With a racing heart, she calls out his name to initiate the formal greeting. Offering a polite introduction as Iris Roca, she silently prays he won't expose her secret greenhouse visit. Theo merely looks away, his expression completely blank and unreadable. To her utter bewilderment, the young heir walks right past her without acknowledging her existence. His heavy, silent footsteps fade down the long hallway, leaving her completely ignored. The butler quickly tries to smooth over the awkward rejection, explaining that the young master is always reserved. Still, Iris remains deeply unsettled by the boy's baffling and icy behavior. The butler's next words carry a heavy warning about the immense effort required of the Duke's future fiancé. Her world shatters in an instant as she processes the shocking revelation of her hidden engagement. The butler confirms the grand scheme, revealing she was brought here specifically to become Theo's future wife. A wave of panic crashes over her as she realizes her entire destiny was decided the moment she stepped into the carriage. There is no time to breathe as the butler lays out a punishing academic schedule starting the very next morning. He coldly reminds her that her status is still unofficial, leaving her future hanging by a thread. The bitter truth sinks in that she has yet to earn any real acceptance in this frozen palace. Plunged into a dark void of anxiety, she realizes she could be cast out at any moment if she fails to please them. The butler watches her closely, measuring her resilience under the crushing weight of expectation. He offers a rare sliver of hope, urging her to succeed where all others before have failed. Clinging to this fragile lifeline, Iris quietly accepts her daunting new reality. She reminds herself of how close she is to the edge, having barely survived her very first trial. A few days pass in a blur of intense study before another unexpected encounter shakes her resolve. A hostile blonde-haired girl with bright green eyes suddenly blocks her path, demanding to know who she is. Caught completely off guard, Iris can only stare at the aggressive young stranger. The girl is identified as Mia Craven, a distant relative of Theo with an arrogant attitude. Mia clingingly calls out to Theo, demanding his full attention. She possessively grabs Theo's arm, asserting her dominance over the young heir. Theo remains entirely unresponsive, treating his clingy relative with the same chilling indifference. Iris watches the bizarre dynamic unfold, wondering about the true nature of this hostile newcomer. The butler suddenly arrives to break the tension, announcing that Iris's tutor has finally arrived. Annoyed by the sudden departure, Mia yells after her to stop and answer. Iris decides that engaging with such an exhausting rival is a complete waste of her energy. Mia's angry protests echo through the Grand Library as she is completely ignored. To Iris's surprise, the butler beams with pride, praising her brilliant choice to remain silent. She is deeply amused that her simple, avoidant behavior is being hailed as a tactical masterpiece. But the gravity of the situation returns as she learns Mia is actively being groomed to be the next Duchess. Fear grips her heart as she realizes her chance of securing her place in the castle is slipping away. The memory of Theo's apparent closeness with Mia feeds her growing insecurity. The butler quickly dismisses her fears, reminding her that the Duke does nothing without absolute calculations. With a final, knowing smile, he urges her to trust the path laid out before her. No matter how many times she looks at him, she cannot escape the chill of his gaze. A calculated observer watches her every move, testing her limits. A familiar rival answers the call with absolute confidence. The luxurious castle halls mask the intense pressure of her new reality. Tension quietly builds within the sprawling, gold-trimmed corridors. Iris freezes in surprise as an unexpected visitor disrupts her solitude. Looking down, she notices Mia constantly seeking Theo's attention. Mia loudly boasts about her lavish new gift to capture his interest. Iris decides she has absolutely no interest in participating in their superficial games. Mia shifts her attitude instantly, putting on a theatrical display to show off. Iris watches quietly, analyzing her rival's calculated charm. She is forced to admit that Mia possesses an undeniable, dazzling beauty. A sudden realization hits Iris as she stares at her competition. With her radiant green eyes, Mia is celebrated as the Empire's perfect beauty. Iris can't help but feel overshadowed by the girl's effortless princess-like grace. Shaking off her doubts, Iris turns away to focus on her own path. She is suddenly startled by a cold presence standing right behind her. Theo stands silently, offering nothing but his signature frozen indifference. Iris questions if she is merely overthinking his bizarre, icy behavior. He walks right past her once again without saying a single word. His silent dismissal leaves an uncomfortable chill in the air. As the winter chill finally begins to lift, a new chapter dawns. Iris pours all her energy into a relentless, punishing academic routine. Determined to survive, she studies night and day to prove her worth. With the winter keeping her indoors, she finds solace in her books. Her relentless dedication slowly begins to earn the household's grudging respect. 5 grueling years fly by, culminating in her prestigious graduation with top honors. Now a refined young woman, Iris officially secures her place as Theo's fiancée. The grand hall is swept up in the glamour of their engagement celebration. Guests gossip about how her political education will serve her in high society. Standing proudly with her betrothed, she credits the Duke for her success. She steps into her new role with poise, ready to face the aristocracy. She has transformed into a calm, wise, and formidable future Duchess. Her trials have forged her into an incredibly strong and capable woman. With absolute confidence, she steps forward into the lion's den of politics. Despite the suffocating heat of her custom gown, she maintains her composure. Theo watches her silently, his icy gaze as piercing as ever. She catches his intense gaze and wonders what he is thinking. An awkward, unspoken tension lingers between the newly engaged couple. Guests eagerly congratulate Theo on his official appointment as the new Duke. With their engagement finalized, Theo's position as the rightful heir is solidified. Nobles discuss the young Duke's upcoming enrollment at the capital's academy. Iris worries that the talkative guests will expose their private arrangements. A sudden comment from the crowd catches her completely off guard. A guest casually mentions her upcoming relocation to the capital. A scheming noblewoman asks if Iris will be moving in with him. The fake pleasantries of the high society ladies barely mask their jealousy. Iris easily sees through their insincere congratulations and hidden hostility. The surrounding whispers grow louder as rumors of their cohabitation spread. Angry socialites glare at Iris, desperate to reclaim their chance at the duchy. Trapped in a gilded cage of expectations, Iris prepares to face her ultimate test of survival. The brilliant lights of the grand ballroom mask the dangerous undercurrents of aristocratic gossip. Ruthless noblewomen whisper cruel remarks behind their fans, watching her every move like predators. The high society vultures continue to mock her, eagerly anticipating her immediate downfall. Seeking a brief moment of peace, she quietly slips away as the heavy doors shut behind her. Finally standing alone in the cool night air, Iris lets out a heavy, exhausted sigh. She mutters to herself about the suffocatingly hot, tightly tailored formal gown she is forced to wear. Leaning against the stone railing, she curses the dress's completely airtight and restrictive design. The oppressive warmth of the night only adds to her overwhelming physical discomfort. Unable to bear the burning pain, she quietly slips off her agonizingly tight high heels. Realizing she cannot risk being seen barefoot, she reluctantly forces her feet back into the shoes. Her brief moment of solitude is shattered as the balcony doors suddenly slam open behind her. Iris gasps in absolute shock, turning around to face whoever has interrupted her escape. Theo stands silently before her, cutting a chillingly handsome figure in his ornate evening suit. His slow, deliberate footsteps echo as he approaches her with a characteristically cold, unreadable gaze. Flustered, she quickly covers her collar and questions why he has abandoned his own celebration. Moving without a word, Theo reaches out and pulls down her high collar to help her breathe. Theo bluntly observes that she smiles far too much, caught off guard by her constant cheerfulness. He points out her baffling habit of smiling even when others mock her behind her back. Staring at him, she silently wonders if his cold anger is actually out of concern for her. She tries to laugh it off, explaining that the guest's petty remarks do not truly affect her. Theo sharply questions why she must play the fool in the face of their obvious ridicule. He admits he merely used his duty to care for his fiancée to escape the suffocating ballroom. She quietly urges him to return inside before his formidable grandfather demands his presence. A heavy, solemn silence falls between them as she contemplates his complicated family dynamic. She remembers the old duke's intense, controlling surveillance over everyone in the castle. Her gaze drifts to the magnificent family crest resting proudly over Theo's heart. She turns back to him, wrestling with a painful secret she recently uncovered. Theo waits in silence, sensing the sudden, serious shift in her emotional demeanor. Tension builds quietly as she prepares to voice the dangerous truth she witnessed. Her hands tightly grip her blue gown as her resolve begins to waver under his gaze. She silently questions if his resistance stems from his absolute refusal to love her. Stealing her courage, Iris asks if he is still deeply troubled by yesterday's secret argument. She confesses that she accidentally witnessed his private confrontation with his grandfather. Iris directly addresses his desperate, angry vow to never commit himself to her. The night before their engagement, Theo had furiously rebelled against his grandfather's strict demands. His sudden defiance had shocked her, as he had always been a perfectly submissive heir. She recalls how the cruel duke systematically threatened Theo's beloved guardian, Lady Lana, to force his obedience. She remembers the dark times when Lady Lana was neglected and isolated by the duke's orders. To protect his beloved guardian from further abuse, Theo had finally ceased all resistance. But yesterday, Theo finally broke, violently confronting his grandfather over this forced union. Understanding his pain, Iris realizes he truly despises being bound to her in marriage. Surprisingly, the bitter truth does not sting her heart as deeply as she expected it would. Theo's voice drops to a dark whisper as he demands to know exactly how much she overheard. Startled, Iris quickly downplays what she heard and apologizes for invading his privacy. His piercing blue eyes search her face, trying to gauge her true feelings. Iris offers a gentle, heartbreaking smile, advising him to endure until he has the power to free himself. Theo reacts with sudden, chilling intensity, demanding to know who she thinks she is comforting. His hand clenches into a tight, trembling fist as his raw frustration boils over. Theo bitterly rejects her easy advice, warning her that her naive words only highlight her own helplessness. A sudden freeze-in realization leaves Iris completely paralyzed with shock as her world begins to tilt. The tragic destiny of a time-limited child binds their fates together, sealing an unavoidable future. Iris desperately pleads with Theo, urging him not to force himself into doing something he hates. A cold, piercing blue gaze narrows, radiating a dark and dangerous warning. Theo furiously lashes out, completely rejecting her hollow comfort while a stunned Iris flinches away in fear. Tension thickens to a suffocating level as Theo struggles to suppress his rising raw irritation. Abruptly turning his back, he coldly dismisses her and demands she return to her quarters immediately. Theo asserts his dominance by promising to handle the grandfather and guests alone, leaving Iris with no choice but to submissively comply. The heavy door latch clicks shut, sealing the painful divide between them with absolute finality. Dejectedly walking down the silent corridor, Iris laments her unfortunate knack for constantly triggering Theo's anger. A wave of deep, quiet sorrow washes over her face as she ponders their fractured bond. Gathering her blue gown, she finds a small, exhausting comfort in finally being allowed to escape her suffocating dress. Iris lifts her head, determined to shake off the emotional weight of their harsh confrontation. Her quiet retreat is suddenly shattered by the sharp clack of heels and a demanding voice ordering her to leave. Gasping in shock, Iris turns to find herself cornered once again by her most relentless adversary. Stepping into the light, Mia flaunts her dazzling, ornate green and yellow gown with malicious pride. Mia sneers with immense hostility, demanding that Iris immediately clear the path and stop drawing attention. Mia inwardly boasts about her rapidly growing renown, anticipating an endless flood of marriage proposals from high society. She recalls a recent visit to Duke Murphy where she confidently mocked other socialites while hiding behind her elegant fan. The subtle, venomous implications behind her sweet words remain a deadly mystery to those around her. Mia smugly plots Iris's eventual expulsion, convinced the Duke will soon realize only she is worthy of Theo. Iris is haunted by her grandfather's stern warning to stay in her place and avoid acting rashly. Recalling those harsh, demanding words, she remembers having no choice but to nod in silent submission. Mia snaps at her, demanding to know why she remains so completely silent and passive. Iris looks on with quiet, guarded eyes, refusing to let her rival see her internal panic. Mia leans in closer, sharply scrutinizing Iris's entire appearance with blatant disapproval. Clutching her fabric, Iris stands frozen as Mia rudely criticizes her choice of clothing. Mia berates Iris for failing to stand out on such a monumental night, urging her to act stronger. Swallowing her pride, Iris delivers a gentle, polite compliment on Mia's radiant appearance. Mia smugly accepts the praise, basking in her own perceived superiority with a triumphant smile. Despite the minor victory, a lingering sense of melancholy continues to weigh heavily on Iris's mind. She remembers the old Duke's chilling advice to avoid engaging with such dangerous, vengeful people. Recognizing her precarious position, Iris decides that remaining absolutely silent is her safest option. Mia mockingly notes her rival's predictable calm, highly amused by Iris's submissive behavior. With a sharp, parting insult, Mia labels her completely insufferable and weak. Turning on her heel, Mia proudly struts away, completely dismissing any standard compliment she receives. As they pass each other, Mia notes that normal praise does nothing to satisfy her grand ambitions. Sensing a familiar presence nearby, Iris wonders if Theo is quietly observing them from the shadows. A sinister purple aura surrounds Mia as she declares that only Theo can truly satisfy her desires. Left alone once again, Iris lets out a silent, weary breath as the tension slowly dissipates. Mia's luxurious green dress sweeps past the corridor as she pursues her ultimate prize. Iris stands in the empty hallway, contemplating the complex web of political alliances trapping her. She adjusts her elegant blue collar, mentally preparing herself for the next inevitable conflict. Dragging her heavy gown, she slowly makes her way back toward the quiet safety of her room. Each step feels heavier as the echoes of aristocratic gossip continue to ring in her ears. Deciding to investigate the quiet balcony, she cautiously reaches out for the glass door. The scene shifts back to the elegant stone terrace where a vibrant green dress sweeps across the floor. Mia spots a solitary figure on the balcony and eagerly calls out Thea's name. A beaming smile spreads across Mia's face as she joyfully approaches the brooding young Duke. Cautiously peeking through the cracked door, Iris watches in silent suspense as her rival moves in on her fiancé. Chilling blue eyes lock onto her as the ultimate trap finally snaps shut. Theo coldly dismisses her concern, leaving no room for further argument. Mia mockingly questions if Theo's coldness is due to his clumsy fiancée, Iris. Theo coldly questions what else he should say, showing absolute disinterest in her probing. Mia's black-gloved hand slides up his chest to seize his collar. Mia boasts that she bought her green gown and jewelry specifically to impress him. Theo closes his eyes, sighing as he prepares to deliver his dry response. Mia narrows her sharp green eyes, calculating her next manipulative move. She steps closer, flaunting her ruffled yellow collar and expensive jewelry. Mia smiles with quiet malice, confident in her absolute sway over him. Theo coldly demands to know why she must always act so demanding. Mia complains that he looks bitter despite her status as a praised beauty. Mia tightly grips his collar, declaring his cold attitude to be unacceptable. Mia boasts she could easily choose a better fiancé from her numerous proposals. Mia pauses mid-thought as her hand rests flatly against his chest. Her vibrant green eyes flash with a dangerous, deeply possessive desire. Theo stares back, his icy blue eyes betraying absolutely no emotion. Mia embraces Theo tightly amidst red roses, claiming him as her husband. Mia ridicules Iris as a silent, mysterious nobody unfit to rule the duchy. Listening from behind the door, Iris's wide blue eye trembles with shock. Iris secretly admits that she and Theo never communicate with each other properly. The distant silhouettes of Iris and Theo emphasize their cold, fractured relationship. Iris recalls her desperate choice to remain completely invisible within the castle. Iris laments her plain appearance and silent, ghost-like existence within the duchy. She remembers how Duke Morphy chose her submissive traits like a puppet. Mia bluntly questions Theo if he truly intends to marry Iris. Mia claims his engagement is just a fake show of obedience to the Duke. Iris's heart beats violently in her chest as she awaits his reply. The silent, suffocating tension builds as the truth hangs in the balance. Theo hesitates in silence, his own heartbeat echoing through the quiet air. Iris bites her lip, bracing herself for the ultimate crushing betrayal. Iris despairs as Theo stays silent, wondering if Mia's cruel words are true. Mia declares that a silent, unfitting woman like Iris cannot rule the North. Theo coldly agrees, stating that Iris does not fit him at all. Mia joyfully agrees, saying that living with Iris would be completely unbearable. Mia is suddenly startled as Theo abruptly walks away from her. A trembling hand reaches out and quickly turns the brass door handle. Theo and Iris suddenly stand face to face as the balcony doors slam open. Theo gasps in absolute shock upon realizing Iris has overheard everything. Flustered and pale, Iris desperately struggles to find a believable excuse. Backing away, Iris quickly lies that she returned to retrieve a forgotten item. Gathering her blue gown, Iris flees back to her quiet room. Theo lunges forward, desperately calling out Iris's name as she runs. Iris runs down the empty corridor, tears of humiliation in her eyes. The tragic reality of their forced engagement threatens to tear them apart. Her frantic footsteps echo through the grand silent halls of the castle. Iris flees, realizing their forced marriage is built entirely on fear. Reaching her quarters, she bitterly wonders if Theo loves another woman. Iris realizes that time is quickly running out for the controlling Duke. Iris collapses against her door, sobbing as her world completely shatters. Devastated and pushed to her absolute limit, Iris clutches her gown as she resolves to force herself to stop caring about Theo completely. Standing before her chamber doors, she quietly laments that the massive burden of becoming the Duchess of Morphino is simply too much to bear. Her empty bedchamber stands cold and silent, mirroring the profound loneliness creeping deep into her fractured soul. With a heavy heart, she prepares herself to only desire the few things she is actually permitted to have in this oppressive castle. Sitting in sorrow, Iris reasons that Theo deserves to marry someone he truly loves, trusting his underlying nobility to never personally throw her out. Looking down at her elegant gown, she gathers her courage, realizing she is no longer the helpless, fragile girl she once was. Clenching her fists, she begins to wonder if being cast out might actually be her only ticket to true freedom. Looking out toward the distant light, a wave of dark uncertainty washes over her as she contemplates her next move. The crushing emotional stress finally breaks her body, sending Iris collapsing into bed with a sudden raging fever. Deep into the quiet darkness of the night, a silent shadow slips into her chamber, setting a tense confrontation in motion. While the fireplace crackles with warm heat, the atmosphere inside the bedroom remains dangerously cold and stiff. The moonlight streams through the tall windows, casting long, eerie shadows across the silent room. A gentle, cool hand suddenly presses against her burning forehead as she tosses and turns in her feverish nightmare. Iris slowly forces her heavy eyes open, her vision blurred by the intense heat of her sudden illness. Towering over her in the dark, Theo quietly asks if his unexpected presence has awakened her. Lying completely helpless, she looks up at her cold fiancé, struggling to make sense of his sudden visit. Suddenly, the memory of Theo agreeing with Mia's cruel insults about her unworthiness flashes vividly in her mind, tearing her heart apart. Overwhelmed by the painful recollection, a single silent tear escapes her eye and rolls down her cheek in the dark. Theo stares back down at her, his pale blue eyes masked in an unreadable, dangerously calm expression. Unable to contain her terror, she tearfully looks up and begs to know if he truly intends to abandon her. Theo's eyes widen slightly before he coldly retorts, questioning if she isn't planning to do the exact same thing to him. A tense, whispering debate echoes through the bed curtains as Theo accuses her of only wanting to escape his side. Iris cries out internally at his bizarre accusation, devastated that he believes she would ever be the one to leave first. As Theo reaches out to gently touch her pink hair, she bitterly remembers his treacherous secret alignment with Mia. Desperate for any shred of security, Iris reaches up and tightly clasps his cold hand in her own. She desperately begs him never to cast her aside, prompting Theo to deliver a solemn, binding promise of protection. Gently shielding her crying eyes with his hand, Theo tells her she is only talking nonsense because of her fever. Clutching the sheets, she wonders if she should finally confess the terrifying truth of her horrific future memories. Drifting back into a deep, exhausted sleep, the heavy weight of her secrets continues to loom in the darkness. Her severe fever forces them to delay their journey, keeping her confined within the walls of Morphino Castle for another week. Once her strength finally returns, she and Theo begin their fateful journey toward the Morphino mansion in the capital. Stepping out in her vibrant green gown, Iris braces herself for the judgmental eyes of the capital's high society. The carriage suddenly rattles violently on the stone path, threatening to shatter her fragile peace of mind. Iris gasps as the sudden bump jolts her awake, snapping her back to reality. Rubbing her tired eyes, she realizes she spent the entire journey staring at Theo's handsome but aloof face. Suddenly, her eyes widen in absolute panic as she looks across the carriage. The seat directly in front of her is completely empty, sending her mind racing with confusion. She turns around only to find Theo standing directly beside her, staring down with intense curiosity. Flustered to her very core, Iris panics as she realizes just how closely he had been watching her sleep. Desperately trying to maintain her composure, she tries to calm her beating heart as he leans in closer. Theo softly explains that he had only approached to wake her, as they have finally arrived at their destination. Startled by his rare gentleness, she quickly scrambles upright, trying to hide her sheer embarrassment. Her heart races uncontrollably as she stares at him, completely thrown off balance by his unexpected proximity. Without another word, Theo quietly turns to leave the carriage, his true thoughts still locked away. She knows they must put on a perfect public show, as high society would ruthlessly feast on any rumors of their discord. Letting out a soft, heavy sigh, she prepares herself to step back into the dangerous den of social politics. The carriage doors open to reveal the stunning, sunlit grandeur of the Morphino capital estate. The castle butler looks on with wide, startled eyes as the young couple suddenly steps out. The butler rushes forward, highly surprised that they are arriving so incredibly early on the day of the city's grand festival. Iris forces a polite smile, desperately hiding the terrifying truth that she is running to escape her own brutal destiny. Turning away in a sudden flurry, Iris walks away with cold determination. The blonde attendant watches her depart with a heavy, deeply remorseful gaze. Iris walks down the quiet hallway, deeply worried that her cold behavior might raise suspicions with the Duke of Morphe. She recalls the tragic legend of the festival, where dancing couples are promised eternal, unbreakable happiness. Dancing with a partner under the festival lights was always supposed to symbolize a lifelong, harmonious bond. Her firm footsteps echo through the corridor as she prepares to face the heavy reality of her situation. Knowing that every action is reported to the scheming old Duke, she realizes any misunderstanding could be incredibly dangerous. Reaching her private quarters, she closes the massive wooden doors to shut out the stressful outside world. Letting out a tired sigh, Iris finally collapses onto the soft seat in exhaustion. She sits alone in her spacious, lavishly decorated room, surrounded by an oppressive and heavy silence. Closing her eyes, she feels her entire body grow weak, as if weighed down by an invisible, exhausting burden. Frustrated by the stifling pressure, she reaches up and loosely pulls at her tight collar. Suddenly, the golden pocket watch around her neck swings back and forth in the quiet room. Iris holds up the ornate timepiece, her eyes wide with shock as a dark realization hits her. A subtle, bitter smile creeps across her face as she contemplates her tragic destiny. Staring at the watch, she realizes she is thinking of her future son and her cold fiancé, Theo. A dark, thorny thread of fate looms as she bitterly accepts that Theo feels absolutely nothing for her. Her gaze turns icy as she remembers that her forced happiness was only meant to last until the old Duke passed away. She envisions Theo, a cold and unyielding man who would never truly love her or share a life of mutual respect. Clutching her hand in silent frustration, she fears the highly complicated legal nightmare of a future divorce. Squeezing her gown in despair, she wonders if a sudden, fatal illness will cut her life short and abandon her child. Suddenly, a sharp knock at the door breaks her spiraling thoughts, startling her back to reality. Shaking off her panic, Iris calls out to whoever is waiting on the other side of the door. The gray-haired castle butler steps into her chambers, expressing deep concern over a rumored fall. Iris quickly reassures him that nothing is wrong, though the butler remains deeply worried about her health. She silently resolves to hide her growing physical breakdown from the rest of the household at all costs. A gentle hand takes her pulse as she secretly wonders if her sudden exhaustion is caused by her new magic. She quickly lies to the butler, blaming her dizziness on the long, grueling journey and her final year academy studies. Forcing a bright, polite smile, she tries to laugh off his obvious concern. Suddenly, her eyes widen in shock as a terrifying possibility flashes through her mind. Sensing her sudden tension, the butler quietly asks what is troubling her. Iris sheepishly asks the old butler if a perfectly healthy person could ever fall seriously ill out of nowhere. The butler is taken aback by her bizarre question, his eyes widening in surprise. Panicking, Iris quickly lies that a close friend of hers was forced to return home due to a sudden sickness. The butler explains that sudden illnesses are highly unusual for wealthy nobility who receive regular medical checkups. Iris's eyes narrow as she realizes the terrifying implication of his words. If the doctor's words are true, then her sudden impending illness makes absolutely no sense. The butler promises to have the chef prepare a meat-rich diet to help restore her failing strength. He gently advises her to avoid a strict vegetarian diet to prevent her body from growing too frail. The cold truth settles in, making her realize that her future illness is not natural at all. Iris lowers her head, the pieces of a sinister puzzle finally falling into place in her mind. She realizes with absolute horror that her future illness must have been intentionally triggered by someone. A sudden realization flashes in her eyes as the true mastermind's identity becomes painfully clear. The terrifying truth of her slow poisoning leaves her completely frozen in absolute horror. Spurred into immediate action, Iris suddenly bolts upright from her seat with newfound urgency. She rushes toward the door, determined to search the castle library for answers about rare poisons. Slamming the heavy doors open, she prepares to search for the truth behind her deadly fate. Iris gasps in absolute shock at the unexpected sight waiting right outside her room. The shadows of betrayal deepen as a new player prepares to step onto the high-stakes stage. A tearful woman is gently comforted, her heavy tears brushed away by a kind, reassuring hand. Locked in a tight embrace, the blonde-haired man warns Letitia that clinging to her painful past will only jeopardize her future. Leaning in with intense focus, he gently reassures her that she no longer needs to carry the heavy burden of her past grief. A dark memory of betrayal flashes as he reminds her that her ex-husband was the one who failed her, and they must face the consequences of their actions. Looking down at her on the bed, he urges Letitia to stop blaming herself for things out of her control. His gaze softens as he tells her that she did her absolute best and always stayed true to her feelings. Overwhelmed by his unexpected warmth, Letitia blushes deeply before finally closing her eyes in a moment of quiet surrender. A rare, gentle smile appears on his face as he notes with relief that she has finally stopped crying. He looks down at her on the bed and asks if her heart is still in pain. Golden sunlight streams through the window as she quietens her pain, though he gently points out that she is still hurting. She hesitates silently, contemplating if using her sacred power is truly the right choice for this moment. Surrounded by a flurry of white roses, he declares his absolute duty to protect and comfort a lady in distress. Letitia desperately clutches his shirt as he softly asks if she wants to finally be free from her heartache. He leans in remarkably close, whispering a solemn vow to heal her deep emotional wounds. Pressing a passionate kiss to her skin, he promises to make her forget all about her ex-husband. Letitia yields to his touch, bitterly remembering how her cold ex-husband had treated her like she was absolutely nothing. Looking at the portrait of her dark-haired ex-husband, she recalls the crushing self-hatred she felt whenever she looked at him. Her purple eyes shimmer with lingering sadness as she reflects on the dark chains of her past marriage. She realizes her true hatred should have been directed at how her cold ex-husband broke her spirit. Tightly clasping hands on the bedsheets, she finally recognizes the profound regret weighing heavily on her soul. A dark realization settles over her that her greatest regret was ever truly loving him. The tension reaches its peak as their lips are about to meet in a decisive moment. Letitia looks up in breathless wonder, her cheeks flushed as the lingering shadows of her past begin to fade. The blonde-haired man gazes down at her with intense devotion, urging her to only look at him from now on. As they share a passionate kiss, Letitia resolves to only dedicate her heart to those who truly love her back. The next morning, Letitia sits quietly on the sofa and sincerely thanks the shirtless blonde-haired man for his help. Standing firm, the blonde-haired man vows that he will never let her suffer in pain like that again. Letitia offers a soft smile, promising to do her best to become a useful ally to him. She quietly begs him not to cast her aside as they move forward with their alliance. He turns to face her, expressing his deep dislike for her constant self-deprecation. Crossing his arms with a knowing smile, he admits he looks forward to when her true self takes charge. Letitia's eyes widen in sheer surprise, her cheeks flushing at his unexpected confidence in her. Putting his shirt back on, he prepares her for the grueling schedule that awaits her at the Duchy of Kant. Before her departure, he asks her if there is anything else she needs for her long journey. Clutching her dress, she humbly replies that she has already received far too much from him. After a brief hesitation, she musters the courage to ask for one simple favor, a single flower. Surprised by her modest request, he repeats her words, prompting her to confirm that one flower is truly enough. Letitia fondly recalls feeling envious in the past when a friend received a beautiful bouquet from her lover. A silent memory of her past social life flashes, reminding her of the simple happiness she always wished to experience. She remembers wishing with all her heart that she could receive a flower as a gift just once. Shaking off the nostalgia, Letitia bids him farewell, signaling that it is finally time for her to depart. She quietly slips out of the grand chamber, leaving him behind in the quiet room. The blonde-haired man stands alone, staring silently at the vibrant bouquet resting on the side table. He looks down with a complicated expression, murmuring that she never ceases to surprise him. The scene shifts to the breathtaking, sunlit expanse of the grand stone bridge leading into the Duchy of Kant. Inside the castle, Letitia stands before a table filled with mysterious, ornate jewelry boxes. Later, Letitia and the pink-haired boy Alexa stop by a bakery display filled with delicious treats. Alexa politely asks if she is enjoying her visit, and she admits her feet are starting to ache. He comments on how captivated she must have been by the sights, expressing gladness at her enjoyment. Alexa escorts her to her quarters, prompting her to warmly thank him and suggest he rest as well. As she turns the handle and pushes the door open, Letitia suddenly gasps in shock at what lies waiting inside. A breathtaking sight catches her completely off guard as she enters her room. Her purple eyes widen in disbelief at the beautiful display of flowers before her. Stepping further inside, she is completely overwhelmed by the ocean of white and violet roses. Tears of pure joy well up as she holds a stunning bouquet close to her heart. She sits quietly amidst the petals, reflecting on the massive changes of the past year. A soft, beautiful smile graces her face as she embraces her new life. The dark shadows of her past marriage loom as her new journey officially begins. The majestic Duchy of Kant stands proud under the warm, shimmering morning sun. A bitter memory of her ex-husband resurfaces, fueling her resolve to never be hurt again. She reflects on how time passes equally for everyone, determined to make hers count. Sipping her tea, she notes that a whole year has flown by in this foreign land. She sits elegantly in her grand quarters, quietly wondering about the emperor's well-being. Staring at the books and flowers, she realizes they haven't spoken in an entire year. Suddenly, a voice calling her name breaks the silence, snapping her back to reality. The red-haired Marquis Edgard Bobring steps forward, asking what has her so deeply occupied. She demurely downplays her thoughts, claiming they wouldn't interest someone of his stature. Edgard slams his hand on the table, fiercely refuting her self-deprecating words. He reminds her of her incredible value as a precious member of their household. The sudden burst of emotion leaves a heavy, lingering silence hanging between them. She recalls how Edgard's family, famous for brewing liquor, taught her everything about Kant. A memory of their solid partnership flashes, cementing the deep trust they built. She offers a gentle, apologetic smile to ease his sudden outburst of passion. Edgard's gaze softens as he looks at her with a hint of melancholy. He somberly reminds her that she must soon prepare to return to the Northland. Walking together, he warns her of the immense hardships that lie ahead on her path. She proudly declares that she has been completely reborn as Anero's victory. Edgard clasps his hands tightly, unable to hide his growing anxiety for her future. He admits he hates seeing her force a smile when her eyes are so sad. Anero smiles warmly, deeply touched by his sincere concern for her well-being. She confidently reassures him that she is no longer the weak person she was. Edgard blushes deeply, hesitating before making what he calls a presumptuous request. He looks at her with intense hope, pleading for her to reconsider staying with them. Suddenly, a sharp heel clacks onto the floor as a commanding voice interrupts him. A vibrant red-haired woman struts into the room, instantly taking control of the space. The elegant Maurice Bodwing makes her grand entrance, radiating immense confidence and charm. Maurice playfully teases Edgard for his overly dramatic speech, reminding him of his poor school grades. She drags her embarrassed brother away, completely breaking the serious tension in the room. Maurice turns to Enerose, questioning why she even bothers listening to his foolish nonsense. Chibi Enerose sweat drops and quickly apologizes, trying to appease her charismatic teacher. Maurice folds her arms, playfully demanding to know what she's actually apologizing for. The teacup rattles slightly on its saucer, signaling a shift in the atmosphere. Standing tall, Anrose recites a Kantian proverb about seizing opportunities when they arise. She resolutely claims that wasting precious time was entirely her own fault. Impressed by her answer, Maurice claps and praises her progress with genuine pride. Maurice wraps her in a warm embrace, declaring her a true Kantian woman now. Anarose beams with joy, attributing her successful transformation to her incredible mentor. Grasping her hands, Anarose expresses her deepest gratitude for everything Maurice has done. Memories of their grueling lessons in etiquette, history, and poise flash before her eyes. The bond between teacher and student shines through in a sweet, playful moment of affection. Maurice pulls out a mysterious envelope, announcing that it is time for her hard-earned prize. The high-stakes game of noble alliances begins with a stunning letter sealed with an elegant golden unicorn crest. Anarose's purple eyes widen in absolute shock as the official terms of her alliance are finally revealed. Smiling warmly, Maurice extends her hand to welcome her as a true partner and ally. Overwhelmed with emotion, Anarose throws her arms around Maurice in a tight, unexpected embrace. Clutching her mentor, Anarose tearfully voices her profound gratitude for her new life. Maurice playfully breaks the embrace, reminding her that they have no time to get overly sentimental. Turning toward the entrance, Maurice announces that their mysterious guest is finally ready to enter. A handsome silver-haired man wearing a monocle makes a grand entrance, greeting Anarose warmly. Bowing politely, the silver-haired messenger expresses his deep gratitude to the Bodwing family. Anarose's heart swells as she realizes he remembered her, asking how he has been doing. He chuckles softly, admitting he has been incredibly busy handling royal duties for the Emperor. An expectant silence fills the room as she asks the critical question behind his sudden visit. Anarose waits with bated breath, her heart pounding as she anticipates his next words. Reaching into his formal coat, the silver-haired man prepares to deliver his primary message. He presents her with a sealed envelope announcing the arrival of her next major challenge. The pressure intensifies as the next critical phase of her training begins to unfold. Holding out the crucial document, the silver-haired messenger delivers the sealed letter directly to her. Anarose gasps in utter disbelief, her eyes wide as she tries to process the sudden trial. He praises her diligence, noting that her progress reports from the Bodwings are highly impressive. A lighthearted moment breaks the tension as the Bodwang siblings stand proud of their star pupil. Prompted to inspect the contents, Anarose carefully begins to open the mysterious letter. Unfolding the paper, she gazes upon an elegant invitation bearing a golden lion crest. Maurice instantly recognizes the document as an exclusive invitation to Duke Sullivan's prestigious annual banquet. She explains that this exclusive summer gathering attracts the most powerful nobles in the region. The silver-haired man emphasizes that this banquet is her ultimate chance to win over the nobility. Anarose looks increasingly anxious as she realizes the true scale of her upcoming mission. The messenger delivers the catch. She must attend the party without revealing her foreign origins. He confirms that this dangerous undercover task is a personal test of trust from the Emperor. Shifted to the grand manor, the preparations begin with a critical choice of fashion. Anarose reviews the colorful gowns, dismissing dark colors in favor of a lighter, more flattering tone. Maurice suggests a sky blue gown, sparking a playful debate on which look will command the room. Maurice reminds her that a simple dress won't cut it for her grand high society debut. When Anarose hesitates due to her past marriage, Maurice fiercely asserts she has been completely reborn. A comical moment of quick styling unfolds as Maurice takes charge of the wardrobe. Grabbing her shoulders, Maurice passionately demands that she show the world true Kantian confidence. Maurice praises her flawless accent training but warns of one final obstacle holding her back. She bluntly warns Anarose that her lingering timidity is her absolute greatest weakness. Undeterred, Maurice helps her slip into a stunning layered pink gown. Tying her dress, Maurice reminds her that minor flaws should never compromise her self-worth. Anarose emerges looking like a breathtaking vision of elegance, ready to conquer the court. Maurice gently reassures her that her ex-husband's past sins are not her burden to carry. She firmly tells Anarose to stop viewing herself as a criminal in this grand game. Anarose suddenly falters, bitterly reminding herself of her forged documents and identity theft. She panics over the high-stakes risk, knowing the severe consequences if her fraud is exposed. Maurice swiftly changes the subject to keep Anarose focused on the immediate task. A warm shared smile passes between them, melting away the lingering shadows of doubt. Pointing to a glittering jewelry collection, Maurice plans their final coordinate options. When Anarose asks if she is coming along, Maurice proudly asserts her high noble standing. A wave of profound relief washes over Anarose, deeply moved by her friend's constant support. Surrounded by blooming white flowers, a radiant smile graces Anarose's face as she prepares to face her destiny. Under a cold crescent moon, a grand castle stands silent as the storm of a lifetime begins to brew. On the eve of her ultimate transformation, she lies awake, whispering that tomorrow is her day of destiny. Clutching her blankets in the dark, she battles her deepest doubts, wondering if she can actually survive what lies ahead. Suddenly, her eyes snap open with electric violet intensity as the dark ghosts of her past marriage come rushing back. She remembers the absolute humiliation of being cast out, a helpless target of high society's cruel laughter. The bitter memory of her husband's mistress boasting about their new family burns fresh in her mind. She recalls the painful sight of her ex-husband embracing his lover, completely discarding her like trash. The mistress had mockingly asked if she was hurting, enjoying every second of her profound misery. Her heartless ex-husband had merely laughed, casually drinking his wine while destroying her life. He had flashed a sinister, arrogant smirk, utterly unbothered by the trail of wreckage he left behind. Consumed by utter despair and heartbreak, she had stared blankly into a cold, dark abyss. The demonic shadows of her tormentors had loomed over her, trapping her in a living nightmare she could never escape. Suddenly, a sharp gasp cuts through the dark as a powerful force yanks her back to reality. A strong, reassuring hand tightly grips her wrist, pulling her out of the shadows of her memories. She looks up in absolute awe to find the legendary golden-haired Emperor Xionian standing before her. Xionian looks down with intense warmth, praising her breathtaking transformation and declaring she is no longer a withering flower. He steps closer, admitting there is still one fascinating mystery about her that he is desperate to solve. Raising her hand to his lips, Xionian tenderly kisses her wrist, confessing that her hidden vulnerability is what draws him in. A deep blush warms her cheeks as his gentle touch melts away the freezing fear in her heart. Reaching up, she gently touches his face, sealing a deep, unspoken bond of trust between them. Xionian kisses her forehead with profound affection, whispering that she is as precious to him as tears. Swept up in a passionate embrace, they hold each other tightly, defying the cruel world outside. He caresses her face with unmatched tenderness, promising to protect her from any harm. Xionian warns her of the immense dangers on the horizon, his gaze burning with fierce protective energy. Sweeping her up in his arms, the powerful emperor prepares to carry her into a bright new future. Soft petals scatter beneath his boots as he walks, marking the beginning of their epic journey together. He carries her through a grand corridor overflowing with beautiful flowers, a scene of pure fairy tale romance. Clinging to her savior, her heart swells with a profound sense of hope she hasn't felt in years. Xionian passionately vows that he will cherish this moment forever, even if it costs him everything. Leaning in close, he promises to give her absolute power and endless devotion in her new life. They share a breathtaking kiss amidst the flowers, cementing an alliance that will shake the high court. She wakes up peacefully in her grand bed, a serene smile proving she is finally ready to conquer her destiny. Meanwhile, a pink-haired young lady strides confidently through the sunlit grounds of a prestigious academy. Sensing her approach, a handsome, dark-haired young man turns around with a look of pure intrigue. He immediately notices the golden pocket watch necklace she always wears, catching her completely off guard. She holds up the antique timepiece, explaining that it is a priceless memento from her late parents. The dark-haired young man smiles, deeply touched that she still remembers their childhood history. She is stunned, realizing he still remembers the secret she shared with him when they were just kids. She explains that the ancient relic contains a magic mirror, warning him to never force the delicate latch open. The young man inspects the talisman, secretly wondering if he can tap into its hidden magical powers. He turns the watch over in his hand, pointing out a mysterious inscription carved into the back. The pink-haired girl gasps as he reads the cryptic words aloud, "The footsteps of time." Staring at the ancient engraving, they both try to decipher the true hidden meaning behind the riddle. She recalls a famous philosophical proverb about the 3 distinct steps of time, searching for a connection. She realizes the saying is a perfect match for a mirror that can reveal the future exactly 3 times. The young man listens intently, his sharp blue eyes flashing with deep calculations. Suddenly, he shifts the topic, asking if she truly plans to focus on bride classes after graduation. Flustered by his sudden pivot, she reluctantly confirms her plans, though she senses a hidden motive behind his question. She internally panics, realizing that her entire life path was secretly decided behind her back. Looking at a caged bird, she wonders if she is destined to be trapped in a high-stakes, noble marriage she can't escape. Clutching her pocket watch, Iris Roca laments that simply graduating from the academy was all she could manage. Tio, the black-haired young man, gently asks Iris if she has any regrets about her time studying. Clenching her fist tightly, Iris reveals she only worked hard because he told her to. Tio looks at her in surprise, admitting he believed she genuinely wanted to study. Looking away, the pink-haired girl quietly reflects that studying was indeed something she wanted. She fondly remembers the peaceful atmosphere and quiet charm of the academy. She reminisces about spending hours reading her favorite books in the library. She recalls the joy of discovering new knowledge from her professors, but a somber truth begins to weigh heavily on her mind. She realizes her fate is to be confined inside Duke Morphe's mansion without any freedom. Tio encourages her to pursue her dreams instead of attending bride classes. Iris's eyes widen in sheer disbelief at his supportive words. She internally hopes that confirming her time limit will naturally cancel the engagement. She resolves to give up her desires to gain practical experience for her future. Surprise washes over Iris as she struggles to process her complex emotions. She remains silent, unable to find the words to express her hidden pain. Turning away, she keeps her deepest thoughts hidden from Tio. She silently thanks Teo for being happy about her academic achievements. Looking back, she reminds him that her duties as the future Duchess leave her with little time. Tio stares at her, a quiet tension lingering in his eyes. He sighs, apologizing for once again intruding on her personal affairs. With heavy steps, Tio turns and begins to walk away from her. Startled, Iris suddenly realizes that she actually wants to follow Tio's advice. Tio continues to walk away, leaving his parting words behind. They stand back to back as Teo coldly announces his departure. Iris turns in panic, desperately calling out Teo's name. But her words fail as she watches him leave her behind in the garden. Sudden shock freezes Iris in place as a familiar figure approaches. A bright, sweet smile appears as someone suddenly interrupts her solitude. Mia, a beautiful blonde girl in a floral dress, steps forward. Mia runs up excitedly, asking why she's been hiding out here. Grabbing Teo's arm, Mia insists they celebrate his graduation of the family. Iris freezes in utter heartbreak, stung by Mia calling herself Teo's family. She watches powerlessly as the two walk away together. Teo looks back one last time, his gaze filled with unspoken sorrow. Teo bids Iris farewell as he leaves with Mia by his side. The painful memory of Teo leaving her for Mia cuts Iris deep. Clutching her pocket watch, she bitterly remembers how he left her in the dark. She laments that he never even bothered to tell her the truth. A cold breeze rustles the trees as she accepts they can never understand each other. Overwhelmed by despair, Iris breaks down crying, wondering how to escape this tragic loop. Suddenly, she gasps as the sound of footsteps startles her from her tears. Iris quickly turns around, wondering who could possibly be there. A pair of polished boots halts right in front of her. A handsome young man with light green hair and gold eyes stands before her. He apologizes for eavesdropping, catching Iris completely off guard. Iris immediately recognizes him as Erwin, the prestigious son of Marquis Brisbane. Erwin walks closer, pleasantly surprised that she actually knows who he is. She explains she knows him because Teo often spoke about him during their talks. Erwin happily suggests they speak comfortably since they are classmates, leaving Iris stunned. A shocking revelation on graduation day threatens to shatter the fragile peace between powerful noble families. Standing side by side, they prepare to confront their complicated noble obligations. Erwin insists on speaking casually, encouraging a surprised Iris to drop her rigid formalities. Erwin flashes a blinding smile, warmly praising her hard work and dedication. Erwin sheepishly apologizes for eavesdropping, but a flustered Iris quickly dismisses his worries. Iris gently warns that continuous apologizing will only make their sudden encounter more awkward. Erwin suddenly declares that Iris is truly amazing, leaving her completely stunned. Erwin praises Iris as the top student, celebrating her genuine passion for pure academic exploration. Flustered by his high praise, the pink-haired girl bashfully tries to downplay her achievements. Clutching her hands nervously, she admits she is unused to such warm compliments. Erwin encourages her pride, revealing he only attended the academy due to family pressure. Rubbing his head sheepishly, Erwin jokes about his miraculous on-time graduation. Comparing him to the cold Theo, Iris giggles and compliments Erwin's widespread popularity. Despite his humble excuses, Erwin's active involvement in school events proved his true character. Erwin's immense popularity ensured even a quiet library student like Iris knew his name. Iris praises him while Erwin playfully covers his face, completely embarrassed by her sincerity. Erwin suggests that Iris consider taking the civil service exam to utilize her brilliance. Iris worries about her strict summons home, while Erwin wonders if Theo will persuade her. Looking down, the pink-haired girl quietly admits she doesn't want to burden Theo. She reflects on the Duke's harshness toward Theo, sensing a grim outcome without words. Haunting memories of cold threats and absolute responsibility cast a dark shadow over her. A sudden, heavy silence falls between the two classmates as they stand together. Erwin bluntly asks if she even needs to care since her engagement is completely loveless. The harsh reality of being forced into an unwanted fate sinks in. Erwin's expression hardens as he murmurs Theo's name, sensing her deep internal conflict. Iris's face pales in sheer disbelief as she asks if Theo truly said those words. Erwin freezes in absolute terror, suddenly realizing he has spoken far too much. Erwin frantically backtracks, desperately trying to excuse his massive slip of the tongue. Her fist clenches the dark fabric of her dress as painful truths unravel. She stands motionless in the cold breeze, her heart heavy with sudden betrayal. Coldly stating her devotion to her home, Iris walks away, ignoring his pleas. Footsteps echo through the quiet garden as he desperately chases after her retreating figure. Erwin suddenly blocks her path, refusing to let her leave on such bitter terms. Looking deeply remorseful, Erwin earnestly apologizes for his thoughtless and rude behavior. Iris rejects his apology as selfish, internally wondering why he continues to block her path. Erwin explains he only wants her to feel better, deeply regretting his careless words. Iris remains completely silent, letting his emotional plea hang in the tense air. Iris realizes that despite his hurtful slip, Erwin is not a bad person. She notes his words were simple, careless, rather than malicious or cruel. Sighing, she admits the true issue lies within her complicated political tie to Theo. Erwin's face instantly brightens with hope as he asks if she finally forgives him. He looks at her with wide puppy dog eyes, desperately waiting for her response. Incapable of staying mad, she covers her mouth to stifle a sudden giggle. A genuine warm smile breaks across her face, completely melting the icy tension. Sensing her amusement, a gentle smile forms on Erwin's lips amidst the falling petals. Erwin smiles radiantly, relieved that he has managed to win back her favor. Iris fondly attributes his natural warmth to his relaxed, southern noble upbringing. Erwin passionately vows that his family will support her with all their power if she ever faces danger. Iris offers a serene, beautiful smile, fully accepting his sincere pledge of friendship. She promises to accept his help, taking a hopeful step toward her uncertain destiny. A devastating betrayal on graduation day sets a tragic destiny in motion. Looking out from her carriage, Iris Roca quietly reflects on how Theo and Mia left together without a single word of explanation. The painful memory of seeing the black-haired young man with the blonde girl cuts deep into her heart. Clenching her fists in frustration, she struggles to contain the overwhelming mix of anger and sorrow. She slaps her own cheeks to wake herself up from the paralyzing despair. Stealing her resolve, Iris realizes she must mentally prepare herself for the harsh realities awaiting her. She recognizes the painful truth of Theo's loveless connection and the inescapable weight of their arranged engagement. Covering her face in distress, she tries to block out the suffocating reality of her situation. Taking a deep breath, Iris sighs as she accepts that a respectful, emotionless marriage might be her best outcome. The carriage finally arrives at the grand, imposing estate of the wealthy, noble family. As she walks through the quiet hallway, she is suddenly startled by approaching footsteps. The Duke's stern butler intercepts Iris, immediately demanding to know where the heir is. Looking away calmly, Iris lies that Theo simply went out to dine with a close companion. The butler sharply questions if the companion is a woman, to which Iris quietly confirms. Tension mounts as she halts her steps, refusing to be intimidated by his overbearing interrogation. Iris fires back, questioning why the butler is so obsessed with Theo's private whereabouts instead of checking himself. The butler grimaces, clearly irritated by the young lady's sudden defiance and sharp retort. He mockingly praises her new composure, accusing her of turning the blame back onto him. His eyes narrow coldly as he warns her that graduation means she is no longer a protected child. Sighing heavily, the butler demands to know why she didn't prevent Theo from ruining his reputation, causing Iris's eyes to well with tears. He glares at her in utter frustration, completely unsympathetic to her silent, emotional distress. Cloaked in dark shadows, Iris bitterly realizes she is expected to control Theo's wild actions when the rumors are entirely true. Coldly dismissing him, Iris announces her exhaustion and walks away, ignoring the butler's protests. The grand hallway falls completely silent as she retreats from the confrontation. Walking briskly to her quarters, she wonders if running away from the suffocating mansion is her only option. But she knows the watchful butler is supervising her every move, acting as the Duke's personal spy. Looking out the window, Iris contemplates using a fake terminal illness to force the Duke to cancel the wedding. She reasons that the proud Duke would never allow his heir to marry a dying bride. Standing in her elegant bedchamber, she hesitates, wondering why she is doubting her own escape plan. She collapses onto her plush bed, completely overwhelmed by the gravity of her life-altering decisions. Rubbing her temple in exhaustion, Iris tries to clear her mind of the mounting political pressure. Suddenly, a sharp knock at her door startles her from her deep thoughts. Standing up quickly, Iris wonders who could possibly be visiting her room at this late hour. She opens the door to find her loyal maids and mansion staff holding a beautiful pink celebration cake. Iris gasps in absolute shock, her eyes widening at their unexpected kindness. The beautiful cake is a heartfelt graduation present from the staff who truly care for her. The maids warmly praise her hard work at the academy, making Iris smile with genuine gratitude. They express deep sadness that she must return to the Duke's strict mansion tomorrow, wishing they could join her. Deeply touched, Iris stands before them, her heart melting from their pure, unconditional support. The staff present the cake tray, wishing her happiness and hoping she returns to visit them often. Iris smiles tearfully, cradling the beautiful cake as a rare moment of genuine happiness fills her heart. The warm light of her room stands in stark contrast to the cold mansion she must soon face. The celebratory cake sits quietly on her table, a sweet reminder of the rare friend she made. But as the reality of her dark future closes in, silent tears begin to stream down her face. Iris weeps softly, realizing she is surrounded by beautiful, kind-hearted people she might never see again. The room falls quiet as she stares at her only source of comfort in the dimming firelight. Standing resolutely, Iris recalls the absolute limit of her mysterious power to see the future. Clutching her golden pocket watch, she realizes she only has 2 opportunities left to change destiny. She resolves to use her remaining visions to verify her terminal illness lie and secure freedom. Suddenly, a terrifying vision of Mia's intense golden gaze flashes before her, warning that her fight for survival has only just begun. A shattering revelation breaks the boundaries of reality, throwing her into the unknown. Iris realizes she has been transported far from her fiancé's territory. Approaching footsteps echo softly across the vibrant green grass. A bright-eyed young boy suddenly appears holding a beautiful floral crown. Iris stares back in absolute wonder at the unexpected child. She internally marvels at how rapidly the young boy has grown. The child happily explains that someone has left a special gift to her. Iris silently rejoices that she and the child will never be separated. A hand offers a vibrant bouquet of pink roses calling her name. Shock washes over her face as she turns toward the familiar voice. Erwin steps forward with a gentle warning for her to walk carefully. She stands frozen, completely captivated by his sudden, stunning appearance. Erwin gazes back at her with a remarkably warm, affectionate smile. Erwin softly questions why she looks so startled by his presence. Iris can barely process the surreal moment unfolding right before her. A sudden movement breaks the silence as Erwin drops to one knee. Holding the bouquet high, Erwin passionately asks for her hand in marriage. Clutching the vibrant flowers, Iris stares down in sheer, breathless disbelief. Far away, the grand pillars of the Morphe Palace loom under the bright sky. Theo stands in silence, his expression cold and completely detached. Mia secretly complains about Theo's frigid and completely unresponsive attitude toward her. Mia arrogantly reassures herself that Theo's loyalty proves he values her far above Iris. Masking her schemes, Mia offers him a sweet, deceptive graduation congratulations. Theo questions her sudden appearance, which she calmly confirms. Mia explains she hurried to his side upon learning his family skipped the ceremony. She deviously plans to make him fall for her by acting as his sole ally. Theo coldly asks if she has somehow integrated into his household. Mia gasps in utter confusion at his direct and unexpected question. Mia mockingly suggests his coldness stems from his unresolved relationship with Iris. Theo reluctantly yields to her persistent presence while she gloats over her leverage. Mia boasts that his mother chose her beautiful dress and praised her looks. Theo remains completely silent, his jaw tightening as her manipulations deepen. Mia urges him to ignore Iris and dine with her, prompts him to ask about his mother. Mia laughs off his concerns, mocking the rigid nature of his parents. She secretly harbors immense disdain for his mother's humble social origins. Mia subtly touches her neck, gloating over her powerful secret weapon. Mia gloats about her ability to control Theo before revealing she summoned a royal doctor. Mia demands Theo's devotion, reminding him that she is his mother's sole supporter. Mia tries to prompt a conversation about his city life, lamenting her missed festival invitation. Mia spitefully mocks his mother's deteriorating health and perpetual misery. Theo stares down, silently absorbing her venomous words with heavy eyes. Mia mockingly compares Iris to a stiff, dry log devoid of any true passion. Mia dismissively suggests he can bring Iris over if he feels so uneasy on her graduation day. Mia secretly relishes how her radiant looks will easily outshine Iris's gloomy expression. Suddenly, something unexpected in the distance catches her eye, leaving her stunned.
Theo's eyes widen as he mutters in absolute disbelief.
Far across the garden, Iris and Erwin stand together in intimate silence. Theo watches intensely, his cold composure instantly shattering at the sight. Unaware of their gaze, Iris smiles softly, finding a moment of peace. A dangerous spark ignites in Theo's eyes as a dark storm brews. Mia smiles confidently, her bright green eyes masking her calculated, devious schemes. The carriage speeds away, cutting a swift path through the dense green forest. Under the bright sky, the rhythmic sound of hooves echoes past the trees. Theo sits in brooding silence, his cold eyes fixed on the empty space. Mia breaks the silence, declaring her sudden exhaustion and demanding they head home. Stunned by Theo's sudden resolution, Mia questions his silent and firm decision. Mia's composure cracks slightly as frustration washes over her elegant features. She bitterly questions his lingering concern for Iris, hiding her deep-seated jealousy. Instantly shifting tactics, she fakes gentle concern for his physical well-being.
She swiftly orders the driver to return them directly to the Duke's estate.
The carriage races onward, leaving the quiet forest roads behind. They finally arrive back at the imposing grand mansion of the Morphy family. Walking inside, Theo admits his previous anger was sparked by her ignoring him. Resolving to apologize, his path is suddenly blocked by the family's watchful butler. Hearing that Iris skipped dinner, Theo immediately decides to check on her. The stern butler watches him with an intensely suspicious and cold look. He boldly questions Theo's true loyalty, prompting a sharp and defensive retort. Backtracking quickly, the butler praises Iris's virtue to de-escalate the tension. Theo pauses, suspiciously questioning if the butler has been pressuring Iris as well. The butler feigns complete innocence, dismissively shrugging off the young heir's accusation. Theo glares with deep irritation, disgusted by the butler's constant, overbearing demands. Cutting the conversation short, Theo turns his back on the butler. Walking toward Iris's chambers, he realizes he let his emotions cloud his judgment. He deeply regrets his harshness, recognizing the immense pressure Iris is facing. Reaching her quarters, Theo knocks gently on the door to offer his apology. He is met only with an unsettling, heavy silence from within. His brow furrows in concern as the quiet room yields no response. His eyes narrow in sudden suspicion, sensing something is deeply wrong. Noticing the door is slightly open, Theo's protective instincts immediately flare. Pushing the door open, he steps cautiously into the dimly lit bedchamber. Theo freezes in sheer, breathless horror at the sight before him. Splayed across the floor lies a silent, completely motionless figure. With a panicked shout, Theo rushes forward to her side. Cradling Iris in his arms, he desperately begs her to open her eyes. He reaches out to her, his hand trembling as panic completely takes over. Devastation and cold dread wash over him as she remains entirely unresponsive. Theo furiously roars for a doctor as a horrified maid discovers them. The quiet room remains frozen in time as chaos erupts around them. Iris lies pale and unconscious in bed as she is finally tended to. The physician finishes his examination under Theo's intense, worried gaze. Theo awaits the diagnosis in agonizing suspense, his heart pounding in his chest. Nearby, the beautiful celebration cake sits completely forgotten on the table. He stares at the dessert, wondering if she had prepared it for him. The maid softly interrupts to change the lady into more comfortable clothing. Theo reluctantly steps back to give them room, his mind swirling with guilt. He recalls how she desperately clutched her pocket watch during her last collapse. Studying the ornate golden watch, he realizes it must hold a deeper secret. The bedroom doors close quietly as he steps out into the hallway. Standing alone, he clutches the mysterious timepiece, determined to find the truth. The painful memory of his mother's tragic confinement flashes before him, steeling his resolve to save Iris no matter the cost. Determined to break free from his family's suffocating control, Theo desperately wishes to grow up and claim his own destiny. His hopes are immediately crushed when his cold father dismisses the very idea of change. Looking down in grim silence, Theo realizes his father intends to control his entire life. Gazing gloomily ahead, Theo vows to protect Iris from suffering a similar helpless fate. He realizes that her current position is terrifying enough to make anyone uneasy. Clenching his fist, Theo resolves to buy her as much time as possible. Feeling a wave of regret, he realizes Iris rejected his help purely out of concern. He bitterly blames himself for not trusting her, knowing he must find another way. Grasping the pocket watch, he desperately wonders if the future can truly be rewritten. Meanwhile, Iris recovers from her collapse, noting the severe physical toll of her magic. She sits in bed, deeply shocked by the unprecedented duration of her fainting spell. Haunted by her chaotic visions, she finds temporary relief when the butler delays her departure. As the maid brushes her long pink hair, Iris worries about facing harsh reprimands. She anxiously clasps her hands together, struggling to calm her racing heart. Her mind drifts back to the shocking vision of Erwin's sudden marriage proposal. She finds solace in knowing she isn't terminal and can stay with her son. Holding her head in distress, she struggles to make sense of her shifting fate. Her attentive maid quickly notices her discomfort, but Iris tries to brush it off. Smiling gently, Iris declines another medical visit, claiming she is merely groggy from oversleeping. Looking solemn, she realizes the Morphe family has been keeping her under constant surveillance. She connects the dots, recognizing her terminal illness diagnosis is a despicable lie by Mia. Even though she has uncovered the lie, lingering doubts continue to plague her mind. Looking around her chambers, Iris resolves to use her final future vision with absolute caution. Suddenly, the maid holds out her precious golden pocket watch, asking if she was looking for it. The maid explains that Theo personally kept the watch safe all this time. Wide-eyed with shock, Iris is completely blindsided by Theo's unexpected protective actions. To her absolute horror, she discovers that the pocket watch's glass cover is shattering. The maid gasps at the severe damage while Iris stares down in complete and utter despair. Staring at the shattered glass, Iris fears she has lost her final chance to see the future. She sadly accepts the maid's explanation, mourning the loss of her only magical lifeline. The maid frantically adds that a massive commotion has thrown the entire estate into chaos. Alarmed, Iris wonders if Theo has also fallen gravely ill during her day of unconsciousness. The maid explains that while Theo is physically fine, he has locked himself away in isolation. Iris suspects Theo has finally yielded to his father's suffocating demands regarding his studies. Before she can investigate further, her energetic maid forcefully tucks her back into bed. The maid strictly orders her to stay put and eat, refusing to let her overexert herself. When Iris begs for a simple walk, the maid instantly shuts down her plea due to the cold weather. Defiant, Iris pops right back up, drawing an immediate scolding from her keeper. Restless and bored, Iris decides to spend her confinement embroidering handkerchiefs as parting gifts for Theo. A gloomy, quiet boredom settles over the room as the two of them sit in silence. Suddenly hearing approaching footsteps outside, Iris rushes to her window to investigate. Peering down into the garden, she stops dead in her tracks as her eyes widen in shock. The maid questions her sudden reaction as Iris stands completely frozen. Out in the courtyard, she spots Theo standing beside an unexpected guest. Her heart sinks as she realizes the guest next to Theo is none other than Mia. This sight of her golden-haired rival sends a cold shiver of pure dread down her spine. Iris watches in silent horror as Mia aggressively clings to Theo's arm, marking her territory. Looking down in quiet defeat, a crushing weight of sorrow settles on Iris's chest. She tightly grips her dress, desperately trying to suppress her rising panic. Fading into the shadows, Iris realizes with terrifying certainty that her future marriage is destined for complete misery. Behind closed doors, hands frantically pack away secrets as the relentless pursuit of answers begins. Keeping herself locked away in her quarters, Iris refuses to step foot downstairs until her calculating rival finally leaves the estate. Sorrow and heavy isolation weigh down on her, leaving her to nurse her wounded heart in silence. Haunted by parting words of warning, she knows she cannot escape the inevitable confrontation that lies ahead. She lets out a heavy, weary sigh as the crushing reality of her complicated situation sinks in. Staring at the pile of beautiful, intricately embroidered fabrics, she realizes her quiet efforts might all be in vain. Believing he only favors the gifts from her rival, she bitterly considers throwing away her hard work. Suddenly, a sharp noise shatters her train of thought, causing her to gasp in sheer surprise. A hand quickly retracts in startled shock as the quiet room is abruptly invaded by a sudden presence. Iris turns around with wide, trembling eyes, her breath catching in her throat at the unexpected intrusion. Standing silently before her is Theo, his dark eyes searching hers in a tense, heavy silence. Shifting his gaze away, he quietly questions the deep thoughts she seems so lost in. Stuttering and caught off guard, she desperately tries to explain away her frantic actions. Forcing a bittersweet smile, she admits she fully expected him to be out strolling in the gardens with Mia instead. A sudden jolt of surprise runs through them, shattering the cold distance between the two. She presents the pile of hand-carved gifts, softly urging him to make use of them during his stay. A deep, burning flush spreads across her cheeks as embarrassment and vulnerability completely take over. She softly explains that she took the time to painstakingly stitch his noble family's crest onto the fabric. Theo's expression instantly hardens into a conflicted frown as the weight of her words hits him. Breaking the tension, he coldly tells her to do whatever she wishes with the gifts, leaving her utterly bewildered. She stares back at him in stunned confusion, deeply hurt by his sudden, distant attitude. Stepping closer, Theo gravely announces that he came to deliver a serious, unavoidable message. Iris tightly clenches her dress, her mind immediately racing with anxious thoughts of her rival's true hold over him. A wave of deep unease washes over her as she braces her heart for whatever painful words are about to come. Stealing her resolve, she commands him to say whatever it is he can say. Theo stares down at her under the warm glow of the room, his expression intensely solemn and resolute. Looking up at his towering figure, she softly calls his name in anxious anticipation. Taking a deep breath, he begins to deliver his final unyielding decree. The agonizing suspense stretches between them as she hangs on to his every word. He solemnly states his terms, laying down the harsh boundaries of their impending arrangement. Iris looks at him with wide, uncomprehending eyes, completely stunned by the direction of his words. His cold, unwavering gaze remains locked on hers, showing absolutely no room for negotiation. To her absolute shock, Theo declares that they will never share a bed even after they are married. She clutches her collar in sheer disbelief, her voice completely failing her in the face of his rejection. A blazing red blush of utter shock and humiliation rushes to her face as the reality of his terms sinks in. Her eye widens in a silent gasp as she struggles to process the sheer audacity of his cold proposal. Her mind immediately drifts to the future, realizing her greatest concern has always been the safety of her child. She quickly calculates the outcome, realizing that a childless marriage would allow her to walk away completely free. She wonders if Theo deliberately proposed this cold arrangement to give her an eventual escape. Refusing to play the victim, she stands tall and decides to turn his harsh terms to her ultimate advantage. She recalls the terrifying future where her every move would be ruthlessly scrutinized by hostile forces. But armed with the forbidden knowledge of her impending fate, she refuses to let them trap her again. Gripping her dress with newfound determination, she resolves to play this dangerous game on her own terms. Looking up at him with sudden clarity, she calmly accepts his cold proposal as the perfect shield against their enemies. Theo's hand flinches in sheer astonishment, completely caught off guard by her serene acceptance. Stunned by her lack of protest, he suspiciously asks if that is truly all she has to say. Looking around the tense room, he demands to know why she isn't fighting back against his cold terms. Quietly keeping her thoughts to herself, she wonders if agreeing to his rejection actually makes him happier. She stares at him, wondering if asking for his true motives will finally force him to admit his feelings for Mia. The heavy silence returns, leaving their fates hanging by a thread as they stand on the edge of a dangerous, uncharted future. In a shocking twist that changes everything, Iris calmly accepts Theo's cold proposal. A heavy, sudden silence falls over Theo as he absorbs her unexpected compliance. An ominous, tense energy fills the space, stretching the distance between them. Theo bitterly declares his absolute defiance against his grandfather's overbearing demands. Turning back to her, he looms close with a sudden dark intensity. Iris struggles to comprehend his abrupt anger, wondering if any reaction is better than complete silence. She quietly agonizes over her unreadiness for motherhood and fears being a curse to her child. Theo defensively questions if she truly deems him unfit to be a father. Stunned by his sharp words, Iris desperately implores him to stop playing cool games. She tightly clutches her dress, silently reminding herself that he proposed this cold arrangement first. Theo retreats into a brooding silence, unable to defend his own conflicting emotions. She gasps in complete bewilderment as the emotional divide between them deepens. Staring at her, his eyes betray a deep-seated vulnerability he desperately tries to hide. Iris wonders if there is a hidden, painful secret behind his erratic behavior. Shifting his gaze away, Theo quietly admits he fears his presence means absolutely nothing to her. She strongly denies his fears, insisting that nothing could ever change her feelings toward him. Shocked by his raw confession, her breath catches as she struggles to reply. A quiet sorrow washes over Iris as she looks down in deep contemplation. She desperately wants to trust him as an ally, yet bitterly recalls his secrets regarding Mia. They stand frozen in a tense emotional deadlock, neither able to cross the distance. Breaking the heavy quiet, Theo softly warns her to be careful on her way down. Iris nods in quiet agreement, touched by his sudden display of concern. In a breathless moment, Theo's hand reaches out toward her, shattering her composure. Her eyes widen in pure shock at his sudden close proximity. Gently wrapping a warm shawl around her shoulders, he softly bids her to stay warm. His fingers display a surprising tenderness as he carefully fastens the delicate bow. A deep, burning flush rushes to her cheeks as her heart completely betrays her. She quietly reflects on his protective nature, recognizing the immense stress of their situation. Deflecting her unvoiced thoughts, Theo claims his actions are merely natural duties of his title. Touching the bow, Iris silently acknowledges the painful effort he makes to close their distance. She softly urges him not to overexert himself while he quietly questions her devotion to him. Looking at him with a gentle smile, she warmly reassures him of his own worth. Moved by her unwavering kindness, Theo falls into a contemplative silence. Abruptly cutting the intimate moment short, he bids her farewell and turns to leave. Left alone, her heart thumps wildly as the lingering warmth of his touch consumes her. She struggles to compose herself, her face burning with a mixture of confusion and buried affection. Tightly gripping the shawl, she tries to steady her wildly racing thoughts. Stepping forward, her elegant white heels click softly as she prepares to face the day. She closes her eyes and breathes a sigh of relief, finding a momentary peace. Reaching for the door handle, she dismisses her foolish hopes and steels her heart. Staring into the room, she resolves to forge her own path instead of relying on him. Suddenly, Iris stops dead in her tracks as a sudden presence breaks her concentration. A familiar hand stops the door as a voice calls out her name, halting her. She gasps in shock as Theo unexpectedly pulls her into his space from behind. He bitterly questions why she is the only person who demands absolutely nothing of him. Looking up, she softly calls his name, completely overwhelmed by his raw vulnerability. Theo looks down with a painful intensity, his emotional walls completely crumbling away. In a breathtaking surge of passion, he sweeps her into a fierce, desperate embrace. He holds her as if she is his only lifeline in a world of suffocating pressure. Leaning into him, Iris softly promises he will succeed, leaving their fates beautifully and dangerously intertwined. The ultimate test of trust begins as doubts threaten to break them. She seeks comfort in his silent embrace, hiding her deep sorrow. Theo softly confirms the bitter truth of their shared reality. Iris looks up in sudden surprise at his unexpected gentle tone. She hesitantly reaches out, her hand resting over his heart. He pulls her into a tight, desperate embrace to protect her. Theo desperately begs for her reassurance as he strokes her hair. A wave of pure shock washes over Iris at his vulnerability. Iris clenches his coat, comforting him with a soft promise. She holds him close, earnestly wishing for his ultimate happiness. Tears well in her eyes, remembering all the pain he suffered.
Her heart stops as Theo desperately begs her to stay with her. Startled, Iris pulls back to look into his pleading eyes.
Theo looks down with a heavy, deeply conflicted expression of sorrow. Iris stares in quiet confusion, sensing a deeper pain within him.
She questions if his sudden vulnerability stems from a hidden pain.
The distance widens as they discuss the complicated nature of love. Iris quietly assumes Theo only values her as a supportive friend. Forcing a gentle smile, Iris bids him look forward to their wedding. Theo remains silent, watching her with a heavy, unreadable gaze. Turning away sharply, Iris prepares to walk out of his life. The heavy door clicks shut, sealing the growing divide between them. Outside, the maid looks surprised as Iris abruptly exits the room. Shivering in her dark blue cape, Iris steals her heavy heart. Iris voices her deep anxieties about returning to the cold Morpheus state. Looking back one final time, a wave of profound sadness hits her.
She quietly bids farewell to the mansion that held her dreams.
Upstairs, Theo stands frozen in place, unable to stop her departure. He stares blankly ahead, consumed by a deep sense of powerlessness. Watching her carriage depart, he struggles with his rising panic. Memories of their childhood flood his mind as the night deepens. Rage and desperation take over as he clenches his fist tightly. A sudden flashback reveals a dark secret from his past. Touching her necklace triggered a terrifying vision of the tragic future. The vision transports him back to a dark, desolate hallway. In the illusion, Theo frantically searches the mansion for Iris. His desperate cries echo in the dark as he seeks her. Suddenly, Mia appears with a chilling, triumphant smirk on her face. Mia coldly reveals that Iris has already run away from him.
She mockingly insults Iris, expressing delight over her sudden disappearance.
Horror strikes Theo as he realizes he is witnessing a future tragedy. He turns away in a panic, desperate to stop her departure. Mia tries to restrain him, but he demands she release him. Mia maliciously warns him that Iris will never return to it. She manipulates him, suggesting it's better to let Iris leave forever. Overwhelmed by anxiety, Theo desperately wonders what drove Iris away. Mia's unsettling gaze locks onto him, hiding her sinister intentions. She whispers that Iris fled to escape her suffocating fate. The horrific truth lands: Iris was suffering from a terminal illness. A terrifying revelation leaves Theo's world completely shattered. The horrific truth of the future unfurls as a dark revelation about Iris's ultimate fate begins to surface. Haunted by the truth, Theo listens as a chilling voice confirms that Iris is doomed by a terminal, incurable illness. In his vision, the manipulative blonde-haired woman smirks triumphantly as she holds Theo in her tight grasp. The devastating revelation strikes deep, sending Theo's heart into a frantic, panic spiral of disbelief. Clenching his fist in agony, Theo finally understands why Iris suffered in silence, unable to even bear the weight of her clothes. The blonde woman continues to mockingly smile, relishing his sudden despair and utter helplessness. She mockingly questions his sudden concern, suggesting the Duke's mistress would be thrilled by his visit. A chilling accusation rings out, laying the blame for Iris's fatal illness squarely on Theo's shoulders. The horrifying realization that his actions caused her suffering paralyzes Theo with absolute guilt. She relentlessly twists the knife, declaring Iris's weak body as a direct consequence of the Morphe family's legacy. Theo desperately pieces together Iris's past warnings, realizing she might have foreseen her own tragic death during childbirth. Refusing to accept this dark reality, Theo's resolve fractures as he stumbles backward in denial. His heart shatters with deep regret over how coldly he treated Iris before knowing her secret sacrifice. The blonde woman dismisses his torment, urging him to accept the inevitable fate that cannot be changed. A grim reality settles in as the dark premonition of Iris's lifeless body haunts the vision. The terrifying vision finally fades, dragging the story back to the harsh light of the present day. A cold winter breeze rustles through barren branches, marking Iris's arrival at the Morphe estate. Iris reflects on her long, exhausting journey, having slept heavily in the carriage to escape her thoughts. Clad in an elegant green dress, Iris wonders if her bizarre dreams are merely a side effect of magic. She stares at her pocket watch, wishing she could trigger another vision to unlock the truth. She reveals a stunning secret. She doesn't actually suffer from any fatal illness, but the rumor is crucial. She quietly prepares herself to face whatever lies ahead in the cold, imposing halls of the estate. She realizes the future has already shifted now that Theo has declared he will never father children. Taking a deep breath, she steels her resolve to carefully plan her next moves against her enemies. The majestic yet oppressive spires of the castle loom ahead, welcoming her back to a den of secrets. She steps down from the carriage, ready to confront the master of this cold fortress. She gasps in surprise as she realizes how quickly she has reached her destination. Duke Ro, the stern, gray-haired patriarch, stands waiting with an unreadable, cold expression. Iris notes how much time has aged them both, altering their paths forever. The patriarch questions her frail appearance, probing into her physical state with hidden motives. She calmly deflects his concern, claiming her weight loss is merely due to a poor winter appetite. She observes his surprisingly mild demeanor, noting how age seems to have softened his once furious temperament. Duke Ro strictly asks if she has maintained her rigid diet, to which she obediently complies. Beneath her compliant facade, her mind races as she questions his true motives. She bitterly recalls the sole purpose for which she was raised by this family, to bear Theo's heirs. She tightly balls her hands together, fighting back the rising anger within her chest. Forcing a bright smile, she politely suggests they share tea and catch up on their time apart. He coldly rejects her offer, asserting that others can easily replace her duties. A sudden, freezing silence descends, leaving her completely stunned by his icy dismissal. She narrows her eyes, realizing the danger of his sudden emotional distance. The dark, empty frames on the walls reflect the suffocating atmosphere of the castle. Walking through the silent corridors, she wonders why the castle feels so unnaturally quiet and bleak. She reflects on the gloomy atmosphere, unable to picture a happy child ever playing here. A heavy wave of loneliness hits her as she struggles to recall any warm memories of her childhood. The patriarch turns with a chilling grin, declaring her pale face now perfectly suits their family. Shaken by his ominous praise, she can only offer a quiet, hesitant response. He demands she rest immediately to prepare for a portrait painter arriving in 2 days. She freezes in pure shock, realizing this sudden portrait order holds a dark significance. Her anxiety spikes as she recalls that Duke Ro has never once commissioned a portrait during her entire upbringing. She remembers their hurried engagement, a calculated test that only occurred right before they entered the academy, leaving their fates hanging on a knife's edge. Shaken to her core, Iris is blindsided by the Duke's sudden demand for a new portrait. Iris realizes that even if she inherits the title, Theo will ultimately exile her for another woman. She fears her portrait will hang as a mocking reminder of her ultimate explosion. Confronting the Duke directly, Iris boldly suggests delaying the portrait session for now. Caught off guard by her defiance, the stern patriarch demands an explanation. Clutching her dress tightly, Iris suggests it is far better to paint her after she gives birth. The Duke mockingly remarks on her sudden maturity before Iris quietly apologizes. Dismissing her concerns, he coldly commands her to stay silent and obey his orders. He walks ahead, directing Iris to follow the butler for guidance. Under the grand, oppressive chandelier, Iris reluctantly agrees to follow his lead. Walking down the corridor, the Duke targets her with a sharp, sarcastic comment. Sensing his hidden malice, Iris silently reflects on how men always hide their true motives. Turning away with a swift movement, her mind races with growing resentment. Iris firmly resolves not to leave a single trace of herself behind for Theo. Guided down an unfamiliar hallway, Iris questions why she is being led away from her usual chambers. Her eyes widen in sudden realization as a deeper plot begins to unfold. Noting the headmaid's reverent smile, Iris realizes she is finally being treated as a duchess. 2 cheerful maids warmly welcome Iris back to the estate, eager to serve her. The maids playfully debate if they should now formally address her as their mature mistress. They reveal her room has been kept perfectly preserved under the Duke's strict instructions. Delivering his message, they urge her to rest and enjoy dinner in her private quarters. The maids share how deeply the Duke worried for her, leaving Iris highly skeptical of his sudden sentimentality. Iris suspects the old man is merely projecting his unresolved longing for Theo onto her. Brushing off her doubts, Iris prepares for a bath as the dark castle closes in. Rejecting their help, Iris announces she is going to visit Theo's mother, Lana. She recalls that Theo's mother has been cast out to a desolate villa in the suburbs. The brown-haired maid immediately freezes in terror, warning Iris against this dangerous visit. Iris responds with a heavy silence, her determination only growing stronger. She realizes the maid's sheer panic is proof of Lana's horrific neglect. Iris steels her heart, knowing she must care for Lana during her stay. She remembers how she and Theo once shared this cold, lonely exile together. Stepping inside the abandoned villa, she is greeted by a suffocating, silent darkness. Coughing violently, Iris is horrified by the thick layers of dust covering the neglected rooms. The sight of overgrown weeds and decaying furniture confirms no one has visited for years. Pausing in her tracks, Iris feels an ominous chill in the air. Iris demands to know who is responsible for this place, realizing the Duke banished all servants. She spins around in absolute shock at this deliberate, cruel abandonment. She desperately wonders how a sick woman could possibly survive here alone. She approaches a heavy, weathered wooden door at the end of the hall. Grasping the rusted handle, Iris struggles as she realizes the door is jammed shut. Calling out in panic, Iris shivers from the freezing, dusty air of the hallway. A faint creaking sound echoes from the other side of the door. A weak, trembling voice calls back from the gloomy depths of the room. The frail woman recognizes Iris's voice, struggling to open the thick curtains. Stepping forward quickly, Iris pulls open the dark curtains to let light in. Light floods the room, revealing the hidden horror within the shadows.
Iris gasps in absolute shock at the heartbreaking sight before her.
A frail, red-haired woman wrapped in tattered blankets smiles warmly, inviting Iris inside. Iris immediately commands her terrified maid to bring warm water and clean blankets. Despite the maid's warnings about the woman's unstable mood, Iris notices a warm stove heating the room. Under the weight of a heavy secret, Iris realizes she can no longer hide her true feelings. The two maids exchange panicked, terrified glances as the grim reality of the situation settles in. A tense silence hangs over the quiet corridor beneath the glowing chandelier. As the fireplace crackles softly, the frail mother warmly praises Iris's striking beauty. Sitting by the bedside, Iris politely accepts the compliment while hiding her heavy heart. She quietly reflects on Lana's enduring grace, finding her to be the sole beacon of beauty in this cold manor. Lana's eyes widen with sudden hope as she eagerly asks if her son is also arriving. Iris gently explains that Theo remains in the city to prepare for their upcoming wedding. A violent, sudden coughing fit racks Lana's fragile frame, shattering the brief moment of peace. Overcome with worry, Iris immediately resolves to call for a doctor to treat her. Holding Lana's freezing hands, Iris gently asks if she has taken her medicine. Lana weakly dismisses the medicine, questioning the point of prolonging a life filled with pain. Iris's chest tightens with dread as she realizes the mother has completely lost her will to live. The maid quietly whispers a dark truth, revealing how the Duke banished all servants in a fit of rage after the last doctor's visit. Iris realizes those painful words directly touch the Duke's lingering sorrow over losing his beloved son. The tragic truth is laid bare, revealing that the Duke fiercely blamed Lana for their son's untimely death. Clenching her fists in quiet fury, Iris refuses to stand by and watch a helpless sick woman suffer this cruel abandonment. Coaxing the mother to eat some warm soup, Iris decides to clean up the dusty room herself. A basket of fresh vegetables reveals that basic food supplies is still periodically delivered to the outbuilding. She surveys the messy, long-abandoned room, determined to bring some warmth back to the cold space. A bowl of hot, nourishing mushroom soup is prepared, offering a small comfort to the ailing mother. Lana smiles warmly, expressing her quiet joy at simply watching the girl's expressions. Iris offers a soft, reassuring smile, trying to ease the mother's burdens. Iris pauses with her spoon, gently noting how heartbroken Theo would be to see his mother in this state. Lana's eyes light up with pure, childlike excitement at the mention of her beloved son. While the mother happily anticipates their wedding and the adorable children they will raise, Iris freezes in silent torment over Theo's vow to never father a child. Iris stammers in quiet hesitation, unable to bring herself to shatter the mother's fragile hope. Lana joyfully reveals she has already chosen the perfect gender-neutral name, Adele, for their future child. Iris weakly agrees that it is a beautiful name, masking the deep sorrow in her eyes. A heavy wave of grief crashes over her as she faces the inescapable tragedy of her reality. Realizing it is futile to hope for a child Theo does not want, she resolves to keep this painful secret buried to protect Lana. Forcing a cheerful front, she urges Lana to eat the healthy soup and focus on her recovery. Lana struggles to write a personal letter to Theo, desperate to receive a direct reply from her son. Her trembling hands can barely hold the pen, forcing her to rest after writing only a few lines. Suddenly pulling Iris's dress, Lana desperately asks if she will be abandoned again once she falls asleep. With tears welling in her eyes, the fragile mother begs Iris to stay by her side. Iris softly comforts her, promising that she will remain right by her side. The scene shifts to the quiet, elegant study of her private chambers. Stepping inside, Iris's expression turns grim as she reflects on Lana's critically failing health. She stands in silent contemplation, knowing she must act quickly to save her. She walks toward the desk, determined to take matters into her own hands. Leaning on the table, she worries about the emotional burden this news will place on Theo. Sitting down, she prepares to write a crucial message to the city. Dipping her quill, she begins to draft an urgent letter to Theo. Her pen glides across the paper, spelling out the heavy truth he needs to hear. Meanwhile, a green-haired man looks up in sudden surprise under the warm afternoon sun. Sitting in the garden, he playfully complains about being ignored while wondering who has upset his mother. With a confident grin, he promises to personally punish whoever is responsible if she simply names them. The green-haired woman sighs in mild annoyance at his overly dramatic protectiveness. In a tender moment, she pats his head and admits his adorable nature makes it impossible to stay angry, setting the stage for an unexpected alliance that could change everything. The web of lies begins to unravel as his mother gently comforts him. He cautiously asks if her sudden irritation stems from the mysterious Morphe mansion. His mother sighs with deep frustration, revealing a country girl has been kicked out. He instantly recognizes the name Mia Craven, feeling his mother's tight leash tightening. His mother furiously bans the girl's name, refusing to let her stay. She reminds him of her plan to matchmake the girl with his cousin. She complains about the cousin's fierce rejection, which he quietly acknowledges. A sharp, calculating glance suggests a hidden scheme is beginning to form. He muses that an ambitious future duchess would never settle for a lesser status. Sipping her tea, his mother mockingly dismisses the country girl's social climbing. He smoothly placates his mother, advising her to ignore the banished girl. Changing the subject, his mother suddenly asks why he has been so gloomy. He nervously brushes off her concerns, struggling to mask his rising anxiety. She mockingly asks if a rejected confession of love ruined his graduation. After he denies any romantic interest, she pressures him to secure an inheritance. Sweat dripping down his face, he warns her that her greed is absurd. He falls into a heavy silence as painful graduation memories resurface. Staring at his reflection, he questions if all his suffering was necessary. He silently yearns for a life of freedom away from high society. His mother mockingly accuses him of being jealous of his older brother. She blunt force asks if he likes men, causing him to instantly panic. He confesses that he accidentally offended Lady Roka, the Duke's fiancée. His mother reacts with pure shock, demanding to know what he said. Clenching his hands, he explains his casual comment about the Duke's overprotectiveness. The memory of Lady Roka's devastated face flashes in a purple haze. He is consumed by bitter regret, wishing he could undo his mistake. His mother gazes at him, sensing his regret runs much deeper. She abruptly asks if he harbors secret feelings for the Duke's fiancée. He defensively mentions her 10-year engagement while his mother tries to call him. He quietly accepts her warning, keeping his painful secrets locked away. He shuts his eyes, desperately trying to block out his lingering guilt. The beautiful memory of a warm, smiling face brings a brief comfort. A gentle breeze rustles his pristine collar, returning him to the present. Soft giggles echo through the bright garden as another carriage arrives nearby. A furious blonde girl steps down, venting about a nagging old lady. She recognizes the woman's ulterior motives, but decides to wait it out. Shaking with intense rage, she screams about a ridiculous man with older children. With a violent slam, she hurls her expensive scroll onto the floor. She recalls a tense dinner with the same smiling man who invited her. She angrily confronts a green-haired lady about the rules of high society. Furious that her luggage was thrown out like garbage, she stands amidst trunks. She storms off with a confident smirk, determined to find another way. Her smile instantly vanishes upon hearing that a vital door is locked shut. The stoic butler states that Mrs. Craven is barred from entering the mansion. Shocked and desperate, her mind races as she tries to understand. The grand mansion stands tall, representing a sudden and terrifying social shift. She desperately asserts that Teo would never authorize such a cruel banishment. The butler coldly warns her to address the soon-to-be conferred young master with respect. Gnashing her teeth in quiet fury, she realizes her influence has completely vanished. A dangerous line has been drawn, setting the stage for a ruthless confrontation. He declares that this cold boundary is the only appropriate distance left between them. Staring with chilling indifference, the butler mockingly addresses the banished Lady Craven. He expresses immense satisfaction that Teo cut ties, hoping they never cross paths again. He recalls how her toxic pride and cruelty once ran rampant in this matter. Crimson fury boils over as she tightly clenches her gown in absolute frustration.
She threatens him with Teo's wrath, only to learn Teo ordered her dismissal.
Panic sets in as she realizes she's truly being discarded like trash. Mia realizes someone else must be behind Madame Rana's sudden turn for the better. Her burning hatred locks on to Iris as the sole source of her ruin. A curtain is drawn back, shifting the scene to a bright, quiet room. Stepping inside, Iris warmly checks on the frail mother's condition. Lana responds cheerfully, prompting Iris to note her remarkably improved health. Lana gratefully credits Iris for bringing life back into her dreary life. Iris beams with relief, happy to see her efforts bearing fruit. A fresh, hearty meal is prepared to help Lana regain her strength. Lana quietly eats, accepting the warmth of the hot soup. The maids happily observe that Lana's cough has finally subsided. Lana explains that leaving the dusty, neglected room saved her failing lungs. Iris reassures her that she has plenty of time to visit. Deeply touched, Lana questions why Iris would spend her time on her. Iris quickly replies that she genuinely enjoys keeping her company. Lana praises Iris's kindness, unaware of the heavy silence it brings. Deep down, Iris feels her upcoming marriage to Teo is utterly meaningless. She knows Lana only wishes for her son's genuine happiness. She realizes Teo must marry a woman he truly loves to be happy. Sorrow grips her heart as she silently laments her inescapable reality. Sensing the shift in mood, Lana's fragile smile begins to fade. Lana gently asks if Iris is feeling exhausted from her visits. Maid arrives at tea as Lana expresses her deep concern. She reflects on how exhausting it is to constantly strive for success. A heavy silence fills the bedroom as they sit together. Lana offers a comforting gaze, trying to soothe Iris's hidden pain. Left alone, Lana weakly questions why her painful life still lingers on. Iris worries if her secret actions will provoke the Duke's wrath. The tense atmosphere softens as they share a surprisingly lighthearted look. Iris resolves that bringing Teo here is Lana's only hope. A sudden whisper from the maid snaps Iris back to reality. Standing up, Iris promises to return the very next day. Lana weakly wonders if Iris can hear the soft tune she hums. As Iris walks away, the soft melody echoes through the quiet room. Lana gazes into the distance, lost in her own bittersweet thoughts. Intrigued by the melody, Iris decides to ask about it tomorrow. She makes her way down the grand, quiet staircase of the mirror. Behind her, the maids whisper about a sudden, shocking discovery. The maids quickly step forward to apologize for spreading false rumors. Iris warmly reassures them, downplaying her own knowledge of Lana's past. The servants whisper, wondering why Lana risked everything to pursue the Duke. A sudden realization halts her steps in the quiet corridor. She remembers the tragic fate of Theo's father, who died in exile. Stepping forward, she wonders if they ever regretted choosing love over status. Trapped in a web of anxiety, Iris dreads a future of endless misery. A sudden call shatters her deep thoughts, instantly putting her on high alert. The imposing Duke enters the room, his stern presence immediately commanding attention. Iris tries to diffuse the tension with a polite greeting while her maids panic in the background. The Duke responds with a piercing gaze, offering no warmth to her attempts at pleasantry. He coldly demands tea to soothe his headache, ignoring her question about where to serve it. Swallowing her anxiety, she submissively agrees to prepare the requested tea. Carrying the tea tray, she silently prays she has successfully managed to avoid his initial wrath. She exhales a tense sigh, knowing the Duke's quiet anger is still simmering. Bracing herself for whatever comes next, Iris gently knocks on his study door.
She steps inside with a polite smile, announcing the arrival of his hot tea.
Her heart aches as she notices his weak posture, realizing his health is rapidly declining. She carefully sets down the delicate green and white porcelain tea set. The Duke watches her every movement with a sharp, assessing look from his armchair. He abruptly orders her to take charge of the household affairs starting next week. He tells her to learn quickly as his remaining time on this earth is running out. Deeply saddened by his words, Iris insists that he still has a long life ahead of him. He scoffs bitterly, questioning if she's secretly wishing for his early demise. He advises her to be strict and calculating if she hopes to handle Theo in the future. A somber expression washes over his face as he ponders the heavy weight of his family's legacy. She meets his gaze with a soft, knowing smile, claiming she doesn't trust anyone easily. The Duke quietly sips his tea, finding a momentary solace in the warm beverage.
She tells him she will prepare his tea at the exact same time tomorrow.
He acknowledges her promise with a curt nod, accepting her daily presence. Leaving the room, Iris realizes how fragile he has become as she tastes the bitter tea. The Duke remains alone in his dark study, a solitary figure burdened by time. Iris breathes a massive sigh of relief, thankful she survived the tense encounter. Her worries immediately shift to Lana's care now that her schedule is about to be packed. A sudden loud commotion echoing down the hallway instantly breaks her train of thought. She gathers her dress and rushes toward the source of the chaotic noise. Peering through the doorway, Iris is utterly stunned by the scene unfolding before her. A furious scream pierces the air as an uninvited guest confronts Iris directly. Iris is frozen in shock, completely caught off guard by the unexpected intruder. Mia Craven glares with pure venom, her face twisted in absolute rage. Mia storms forward, her heavy footsteps echoing her utter lack of respect. She violently confronts Iris, accusing her of manipulating Theo into banishing her. Iris maintains her composure, refusing to let the girl's wild accusations break her calm facade. The head butler demands to know who let the banished girl back into the mansion. Mia screams at the staff, arrogantly asserting her right to enter whenever she pleases. Iris coldly tells her to leave her out of whatever drama she has with Theo. Enraged by Iris's indifference, Mia fiercely strikes the tea tray out of her hands. The Duke's precious teacup shatters into pieces on the floor with a loud crash. Panic immediately overrides Mia's anger as she realizes what she has just broken. A chillingly familiar voice demands an explanation for the chaotic noise. The Duke stands at the doorway, his terrifying presence instantly silencing the room. Both girls freeze in absolute terror, dreading his imminent wrath. Iris quickly takes the blame, claiming she dropped the hot tray by accident. Mia silently mocks Iris's foolishness, thrilled to see her taking the fall. The Duke demands to know the reason for Mia's unauthorized presence. He turns his piercing gaze toward Iris, seeking the absolute truth behind the shattered tea. The ultimate clash for survival begins as Mia smugly lies to the Duke, painting Iris as a toxic manipulator while Iris notes her rival's deceptive power. Mia dramatically plays the victim, but her facade instantly shatters when the Duke fiercely forbids her from ever speaking so familiarly to his future daughter-in-law. The chilling warning leaves the blonde completely paralyzed with absolute terror and silent humiliation. In a desperate physical frenzy, Mia claws at Iris's dress and hysterically shrieks that this plain girl is far too shabby to ever rule the duchy. She wildly claims that the servants will never obey Iris, only for the Duke to cut her off with a terrifying low-voiced threat. The absolute weight of his deadly aura leaves Mia stuttering and trembling in complete submission. Before she can even utter another excuse, guards suddenly seize her arms and violently drag her away. Iris watches the pathetic display with cold, silent detachment, offering absolutely no mercy. Humiliation boils into raw, venomous hatred as Mia gnashes her teeth in absolute fury. Desperate for mutual destruction, Mia suddenly screams out the location of Iris's secret, forbidden daily visits. She exposes the shocking truth to the entire room, revealing that Iris has been actively defying the Duke's absolute orders. A cold sweat breaks on Iris's face as the crushing realization of her exposed secret sinks in. While Iris frantically searches for an escape, the Duke's deep, low voice suddenly summons his head butler. Believing she has successfully secured Iris's execution, Mia wears a sinister, victorious smirk. In a legendary plot twist, the Duke ignores Iris entirely and orders the immediate permanent eviction of Mia Craven. Iris stands frozen in complete bewilderment as the guards ruthlessly drag the screaming blonde toward the exit. Mia hysterically cries out to the Duke, desperately begging him to remember their close bond, but her pleas are completely ignored. He gazes coldly into the distance, declaring that his trust has never belonged to anyone. Stripping away her final hope, he ruthlessly asserts that he treasures no one as the guards drag her out. Turning his back on the chaotic scene, the Duke calmly notes that his son has finally regained consciousness. Mia's pathetic, muffled cries fade into the distance as her nails desperately claw at the empty air. The relentless echoes of her desperate struggle slowly disappear down the long, empty hallway. With a thunderous slam, the massive entrance door seals shut, banishing her from the household forever. A heavy, suffocating silence once again claims the grand mansion's halls. The Duke slowly turns back, leaving Iris trembling in anticipation of her impending punishment. Gathering her courage, Iris quietly asks if he is truly not angry with her defiance. To her utter shock, the Duke calmly questions why he would ever be upset. When she confesses to visiting Lady Lana, he reveals that nothing in this manner has ever escaped his notice. Iris realizes she was foolish to think she could ever hide her movements from the absolute master of this estate. Instead of fury, the Duke praises her political cunning, calling her compassion for Lana a masterstroke to secure Theo's loyalty. He watches her silently, evaluating her potential to carry the heavy weight of their family legacy. However, he warns her that her official training begins next week, leaving no time for personal visits. Overflowing with immense relief, Iris beams with a radiant, grateful smile. A gentle warmth fills her heart as she envisions a brighter future ahead. Stepping out into the grand hallway, the massive doors click shut behind her. Her anxious maids let out a massive sigh of relief, admitting how terrified they were of the Duke's wrath. Iris offers a gentle smile, quietly admitting she was just as terrified as they were. Sometime later, she sits quietly in her room, carefully writing a letter with a quill. She pauses mid-sentence, deciding to keep the details vague to avoid raising any false expectations. Gently holding the finished letter close, a quiet sense of hope washes over her. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to the quiet, dark sanctuary of the Duke's study. The Duke quietly nods as the butler confirms Mia's successful eviction from the estate. The Duke asks if anyone noticed the door was opened on purpose, and the butler confirms he handled the scheme directly. Deeply exhausted, the Duke laments the constant threats, expressing a dark desire for his own end. He fiercely resolves that they must aggressively protect and guide Iris through the upcoming storm. The butler reports that Baron Craven's influence in the capital is also withered away. He then questions how they should handle the lingering matter of Lady Lana. The Duke coldly commands that they keep her barely alive, comparing her to a caged animal. The butler stares in stunned horror, chilled by the sinister depth of his master's words. A terrifying, silent grin spreads across the Duke's face, leaving their dark, ultimate intentions shrouded in chilling mystery. A gilded cage is still a prison, and keeping secrets locked away will only make the eventual explosion even more devastating. The transition of household power is officially set in motion as the Duke notes her perfect grasp of administrative affairs. The head maid hands Iris a highly classified ledger detailing the key servant families of the Morpay Duchy. Smiling knowingly, the elderly maid asks Iris if she already understands the true extent of these hidden power dynamics. Iris confirms her familiarity, noting she spent a massive portion of her life studying the estate's layout. Clasping her hands tightly, Iris silently recognizes that administrative competence alone cannot guarantee Theo's happiness. The maid's gentle smile falters as she senses a sudden, heavy shift in Iris's demeanor. Iris gasps softly, instantly realizing she accidentally voiced her deepest, most private anxieties aloud. A tense silence fills the room as the maid carefully processes Iris's sudden slip of the tongue. The maid quickly reassures Iris of her long preparation and highlights her unique close relationship with the Duke. Iris downplays the claim, visibly sweating under the immense pressure of handling the terrifying patriarch. Clutching her gown in sheer dread, Iris secretly wonders how the maid would react to the dark future. She silently wrestles with the terrifying memory of her eventual flight from this castle with the child. A sudden spark of desperate determination flashes within Iris's bright blue eye. Iris contemplates finding alternate ways to secure Theo's safety without being bound to childbirth. Gathering her resolve, Iris prepares to deliver the hot tea directly to the Duke's private chamber. Stepping into the grand corridor, Iris reminds herself that passive complaints about her physical frailty will change nothing. Holding the delicate tea tray, Iris decides that a direct confrontation is her only path forward. With every step down the lavish hallway, the crushing weight of her destiny presses heavily upon her shoulders. She arrives at the massive gilded doors of the Duke's private study. The white-haired Duke coldly acknowledges Iris's entry from his seat on the dark sofa. Iris offers a soothing lavender tea to aid his persistent insomnia, but the Duke dismisses the gesture entirely. Iris insists on the importance of his rest, prompting the bitter patriarch to question the value of longevity. Remorse fills the Duke's eyes as he bitterly regrets not dying before his own child's tragic demise. Iris is utterly stunned by the sudden dark shift in his temper. The Duke bluntly declares his sole purpose for bringing her to the capital was to quickly secure Theo's heir. He coldly reminds her that producing a child is the non-negotiable requirement for ruling his castle. The Duke calmly sips his warm tea, completely unfazed by the emotional wreckage he has caused. Blinking back tears of pure shock, Iris struggles to maintain her composure under his chilling expectations. The Duke warns her of the perilous political storms ahead and demands she protect the fortress after his death. He firmly instructs her to bear their child as soon as possible to secure the lineage. Trapped by his absolute command, Iris remains utterly speechless as the trap closes around her. The Duke's icy blue eye narrows as he demands an immediate answer to his decree. Iris reluctantly submits to her fate, acknowledging that this painful duty is her sole reason for existence. The dark reality settles in. She is bound to raise the next generation while Theo dominates the political center. A wave of quiet despair washes over Iris as her idealized future is thoroughly shattered. Clasping her hands in dread, Iris tentatively asks what would happen if Theo refused to have children. The Duke's aura instantly darkens as he aggressively questions if Theo has already made such a rebellion. Terrified by his hostility, Iris quickly backtracks and frames it as a simple concern regarding the difficulties of conception. The Duke harshly reminds Iris of her purpose and orders her to manipulate Theo into compliance. Cornered by his absolute authority, Iris can only whisper her compliance to his terrifying demands. The Duke abruptly dismisses the heavy topic, ordering her to rest before an afternoon portrait painting session. Iris forces a polite, empty smile to mask the absolute turmoil raging within her heart. With a resounding click, the heavy double doors shut behind her, releasing her from his suffocating presence. Stepping into the grand hallway, Iris is suddenly distracted by the sound of hushed voices nearby. She overhears the mansion's maids gossiping about Lady Craven's eviction and a massive scandal involving Baron Craven's illegitimate heir. The servants whisper about the Duke's terrifying foresight in leveraging secret naturalization records to crush his political rivals. Iris finally understands the complex scheme behind the Craven family's sudden ruin, quietly thanking the servants for the information. A cold shiver runs down her spine as she realizes those same calculative eyes are constantly evaluating her. Hurrying down the long, empty corridor, Iris realizes with absolute dread that no corner of this castle is safe. With secrets hanging by a thread, Iris dreads that her every move will be exposed directly to the formidable Duke. Walking through the cold halls, the pink-haired girl desperately contemplates what she must do to survive in this house of cards. Every click of her heels on the marble floor echoes with the heavy burden of her uncertain past. Hurrying forward, her footsteps quicken as she rushes toward her next unavoidable trial. Pausing in the silent corridor, she gasps for breath, desperately trying to steady her racing heart. A sudden voice calling her name causes the startled pink-haired girl to freeze in sheer panic. She envisions the ghostly, glowing blue form of Theo, remembering how he always shielded her from collapse. But as the comforting blue phantom fades back into memory, she is left utterly alone in the dark corridor. Steeling herself, she hides her immense vulnerability behind a mask of cold, aristocratic elegance. Though his words are never warm, she realizes Theo is the only one who reaches out when all hope is lost. Summoning her absolute resolve, she flings the heavy doors open to confront her next grueling task. A quill dips deeply into dark ink as she prepares to write a crucial high-stakes letter. Sitting quietly at her lavish desk, she begins the delicate task of penning her secret thoughts. She agonizes over how to describe the sudden, brutal downfall of her rival, Mia Craven. Trapped in an unforgiving household, she wonders if she is truly surrounded by silent enemies. Sitting alone in the vast, purple-hued darkness of her chamber, the crushing weight of isolation closes in. Her hand trembles violently as she stares at her paper, struggling to maintain her composure. Putting quill to paper, she desperately writes down her deepest anxieties and wonders when Theo will finally return. A single tear threatens to fall as she privately laments the deep ache consuming her heart. A sudden sharp knock at the door instantly shatters the silence and jars her back to reality. A maid urges her to quickly redo her makeup because the royal portrait painter has officially arrived. The grand decorated corridors of the estate buzz with the chaotic whispers of gathering guests. A maid marvels at Iris's stunning new portrait, lamenting that Theo's own likeness is not yet displayed. The white-haired Duke dismisses the complaints, coldly declaring that Theo's portrait will be added the moment he returns. Staring at the massive frame, Iris realizes her portrait will soon dominate the grand corridor for her upcoming wedding. She quietly gazes at the uncanny painting, secretly plotting to take the portrait with her if she ever escapes. Dressed in formal black attire, she stands tense as she prepares to face the terrifying patriarch once more. The stern white-haired Duke watches her closely, his sharp eyes evaluating her readiness for power. Guests gossip about the Duke's lavish tea party and the wedding invitations sent to all his powerful vassals. In a grand flashback, she remembers standing before the high society elites, a visual display of her new authority. Clenching her dark gown, she acknowledges that asserting political dominance is necessary to control the territory. Staring out at the towering Morpay castle, she accepts her destiny to govern the vast estate in Theo's absence. The Duke abruptly demands an update on her progress with the wedding preparations. Knowing the all-seeing patriarch already has his answers, she quietly processes his calculated test of loyalty. Deeply buried memories resurface of the monstrous, watchful eyes that have judged her since her first day at the castle. Keeping her expression perfectly neutral, she assures him that everything is proceeding without a single obstacle. Pleased by her competence, the Duke orders her to attend the critical vassals meeting today. Taking a deep breath, she vows to manage the estate perfectly before her eventual departure. Under the light of the grand chandelier, the transition of power begins to take physical shape. Stepping out onto the high stone balcony, the Duke commands her to look closely at the horizon. He gestures to the vast lands below, reminding her that thousands of lives now depend on her every decision. Looking at her sideways, the white-haired patriarch delivers a rare, chilling declaration of trust. Stunned by his unexpected words, Iris looks at him with wide, disbelieving eyes. Her long pink hair flutters in the wind as she stands on the high balcony, absorbing her colossal responsibility. The grand sitting room stands empty, a quiet calm before the next storm of political schemes. Exhausted from her duties, Iris is informed by her maid that a stack of letters has arrived on her desk. A beautifully sealed envelope rests on a silver tray, waiting to be opened. Approaching the desk, she gently picks up the mysterious letter. Recognizing the handwriting, she gasps in pure, unadulterated shock. As she reads the familiar words, her heart races with a sudden, overwhelming wave of hope. Tension explodes as Iris analyzes a shockingly informal letter from the green-haired Irvin, whose erratic nature defies all aristocratic norms. She notes the stark geographic division, contrasting the sun-drenched resort of Brisbane with the eternally frozen peaks of Morpee. With a delicate rustle, she opens the letter, reading the sender's polite but persistent complaints of intense boredom. Clutching the paper, Iris realizes that Irvin remains far closer to Theo than she is. Her thoughts are abruptly interrupted as she glances up, sensing an approaching presence. The estate maid inquires about any incoming correspondence from Theo, only to receive a quiet, disappointing refusal. Despair settles heavily on Iris as she laments how Theo has completely ignored every single one of her letters. Slumping back in her chair, she anxiously wonders if he is simply too consumed by royal duties. Resolving to push forward, she writes to inform him that their wedding arrangements are already taking shape. Night deepens as the scratch of her pen echoes through the silent, oppressive chamber. She bitterly notes how writing these unanswered letters has tragically become her daily routine. Suddenly, a sharp call from the doorway startles her out of her melancholic hots. The maid excitedly announces that her wedding dress is finished, forcing Iris to face her impending reality. Setting her quill aside, Iris prepares herself to inspect the gown that will seal her fate. Meanwhile, deep within the magnificent royal palace, a completely different struggle for power is unfolding. Golden light spills across the lavish corridors where secret administrative meetings take place. An administrative official strides purposefully through the halls, carrying the weight of the crown's secrets. He wears the symbolic white rose boutonniere, the distinctive mark of a newly appointed royal official. This formal emblem serves as essential proof of identity within the vast labyrinthine palace grounds. At the pinnacle of this hierarchy stands the elusive crown prince, managing his massive inner circle. Securing a position directly assisting the royal heir is the ultimate path to supreme political power. A heavy door creaks open, signaling the arrival of a highly anticipated visitor. Theo enters the private chamber, his expression cool, calculated, and entirely unbothered. Across the room, a pair of booted feet rest lazily atop a polished desk. The arrogant, blonde-haired crown prince greets him with a smug, mocking smile. Theo mentally recoils at the prince's casual attempts to treat him like a close companion. The prince immediately demands that Theo rapidly process a massive stack of official documents. He petulantly complains about Theo's insistence on proper protocols instead of just blindly stamping the papers. Theo reflects on how the prince's insufferable, demanding attitude has not changed since day one. Though Theo initially struggled to control his irritation, he has begrudgingly grown accustomed to the prince's antics. When the prince orders him to bend the rules, Theo firmly shuts down any legal compromises. The prince questions why Theo is in such a frantic hurry to finish a month's worth of paperwork. Narrowing his sharp golden eyes, the prince begins to closely scrutinize the official's true motives. He gestures toward Theo's heavily bandaged hand, warning him to be far more careful. The brown-haired assistant boldly points out that the prince is entirely to blame for Theo's injury. The scene shifts to 1 week prior, when Theo first arrived at the Crown Prince's palace. In a sudden crisis, Theo had reflexively caught the falling prince, fracturing his own hand in the process. Back in the present, the prince urges the injured official to take immediate paid sick leave. He growls in frustration as Theo stubbornly refuses to delay his duties for even a single day. The assistant interjects, reminding the prince that Theo must finish his work before leaving to get married next month. The prince freezes in utter shock, hysterically questioning why Theo would marry at such a young age. The workplace instantly erupts into chaotic gossip as the prince ignores his duties to pry into Theo's personal life. When the prince suggests slowing down, Theo coldly demands he focus on signing the documents. Curled in frustration, the prince desperately asks his assistant if he knows who would ever agree to marry a stone like Theo. It is revealed that administrative officials are exclusively selected from the top graduates of the elite academy. The prince mocks Theo's unseen fiancée, teasingly claiming she must be a cunning woman taking advantage of him. Theo suddenly offers the prince his premature congratulations, catching the heir completely off guard. A chilling, satisfied expression plays on Theo's face as he prepares to deliver his final retort. He bluntly tells the prince that he will be the one marrying a truly cunning woman, leaving the heir speechless. Before the prince can recover, Theo demands he spill his own romantic secrets, igniting a fierce battle of wits that could alter the empire's future. Prepare for absolute chaos as the arrogant prince unleashes a smug smile that signals trouble. Theo reflects on his prior commitment, explaining the timeline of his arranged marriage. The blonde prince lazily rests his cheek on his gloved hand, shallowly questioning his assistant's choice of bride. Theo deadpans a dismissive response while the chubby prince mockingly predicts a completely dull marriage. The prince narrows his gold eyes, carefully analyzing Theo's reaction for any signs of hidden emotion. Dropping his playful demeanor, the prince sternly challenges Theo to call off the wedding before it is too late. The blonde royal warns that proceeding with a passionless marriage will lead to lifelong regret. Theo stubbornly defends the arrangement as a long-decided duty, but the prince urges him to prioritize his own life. The prince suggests Theo's rising political status allows him to easily find a far more advantageous partner. A sudden spike of silent anger causes Theo to tightly clench his hand. Theo mentally contemplates the prince's warning about calling off the wedding if he is truly unhappy. Theo hesitates, finding himself momentarily unable to articulate his true feelings. The scene shifts to a beautifully arranged dessert tower as the relentless march of time leaves only a single month before the wedding. Dressed in a stunning dark gown, Iris prepares herself to face the territory's high society. Iris hosts her very first official tea party to secure the crucial political loyalty of the vassals. The gathered noble ladies exchange tense, awkward glances under their new host's watchful eye. Hostile murmurs ripple through the crowd as the gossiping guests evaluate Iris's worthiness. With a quiet, dramatic rustle of her purple skirts, Iris steps forward to command the room. Iris delivers a flawless, dignified welcome speech to her highly skeptical guests. The guests watch her closely, silently searching for any sign of weakness or hesitation. A cunning noblewoman in a green dress deceptively encourages Iris to drop her formal guard. Iris gracefully handles the bait, positioning herself as a humble learner among them. The snobbish guests continue their thinly veiled verbal attacks, testing Iris's resolve. Iris maintains a perfectly serene smile despite the surrounding mockery. A brief, heavy silence falls over the beautifully decorated tea table. A sharp question about Theo's delayed return instantly catches Iris off guard. Pressured by the guests' probing questions, Iris quietly assures everyone of Theo's imminent return. She forces a calm, confident expression to hide her growing internal panic. The conversation takes a patronizing turn as the guests pressure Iris about producing heirs. The high society vultures laugh, masking their cruel intentions behind pleasant tea gossip. They continue to mockingly debate her future maternal responsibilities as the new Duchess. Under the relentless psychological warfare, Iris feels her energy rapidly draining. The arrogant Baroness Craven strikes a low blow, questioning if Iris is being willfully ignorant about her fiancé. A sudden wave of shock washes over Iris as the rumors strike too close to home. The smug Baroness enjoys her temporary triumph, thinking she has successfully broken the young Duchess. Iris swiftly regains her composure, delivering a calm and unwavering rebuttal. Visibly annoyed by the Duchess's resilience, the Baroness snaps her fan shut. Iris boldly questions why the Baroness is so obsessed with another couple's wedding arrangements. Suppressing her rage, Iris delivers a stunning, polite dismissal that completely silences the troublemaker. The crowd begins to whisper about how the Baroness's own daughter was disgracefully banned from the castle. Iris maintains her absolute poise, completely turning the tables on her enemy. The tense tea party successfully concludes, solidifying Iris's first major victory in high society. A maid suddenly approaches Iris, urgently requesting her presence away from the guests. The maid reveals that a distressed Lana has run outside barefoot, sending Iris into a panic. Terrifying thoughts race through Iris's mind as she rushes through the castle corridors. Lana stands trembling, gasping for breath in her simple white nightgown. Covered in sweat and tears, the fragile, red-haired Lana desperately calls out for Iris. Iris freezes in pure horror, her heart hammering against her chest. Lana apologizes for her sudden episode, admitting her deep-seated anxieties are tearing her apart. Sensing her friend's profound despair, Iris gently offers to hold Lana's hand until the nightmares finally fade away. But what terrifying secrets are these nightmares trying to reveal? Sleep is a luxury they can no longer afford as Iris realizes Lana hasn't rested a single wink. Clinging desperately to the dark fabric of her dress, Lana suddenly demands to know if the wedding with Theo is truly set in stone. Overwhelmed by a suffocating dread, the fragile red-haired woman trembles as she questions what will happen to them once Iris departs. Tears welling in her eyes, Lana begs Iris not to abandon her to the terrifying loneliness of the Grand Castle. Iris gently coaxes her distraught friend back to sleep, desperate to ease her profound suffering. Slipping quietly through the heavy wooden doors, Iris leaves the silent room behind. Iris glances back with deep concern, knowing Lana's worsening mental state is a ticking time bomb. Her worries are suddenly interrupted when the castle's resident physician intercepts her in the hallway with urgent news. The doctor delivers a devastating blow, explaining that the mother-in-law's health is rapidly deteriorating due to severe lung failure. Iris reels in absolute shock as she learns her friend's physical endurance has plummeted to less than half of a normal person's. Clenching her hands in panic, Iris desperately asks if there is any hope of curing this fatal condition. The tragic truth is laid bare as the doctor confirms the damage to Lana's lungs is entirely irreversible. Iris faces a crushing dilemma, realizing her planned return to the capital could have fatal consequences. An oppressive darkness closes in as Iris fears her absence will lead to a tragedy that ruins Theo's life forever. Resolving to take action, Iris gathers her skirts and decides she must discuss this crisis with Theo immediately. Under the cold glow of the crescent moon, heavy footsteps suddenly echo through the silent palace corridors. Iris freezes in her tracks, startled by an unexpected presence lurking in the shadows. Out of the darkness steps the imposing old duke, his piercing gaze locking onto the young duchess. He coolly acknowledges that her first official tea party was a political success among the high society ladies. Demanding absolute obedience, the duke sternly questions why she did not report to him immediately after the event. Iris hesitates, wondering if she has any right to disclose Lana's secret life-threatening illness to him. A suffocating silence fills the grand corridor as she faces her intimidating elder. With a cold sneer, the duke dismisses her hesitation, ordering her to focus strictly on completing her duties. Iris is left speechless by the duke's harsh, unyielding control over her actions. A chilling reminder makes it clear that her role in this family is strictly defined by his boundaries. She swallows her anger, forced to accept her powerless position in this treacherous house. Iris quietly notes that a tragic outcome for Lana will permanently shatter the bond between Theo and the duke. Glaring down at her, the duke mockingly asks if she is truly acting out of concern for his family. He grudgingly notes her sharp intellect, but warns her not to overestimate her position. Walking away, the duke leaves her with a heavy, guilt-laden warning about the family's dark past. Left entirely alone in the massive corridor, Iris trembles under the overwhelming psychological pressure. Tears prick her eyes as she struggles to maintain her composure in this hostile environment. Before vanishing, the duke drops a massive bombshell, revealing that Theo has already left the capital.
Iris's heart hammers with anxiety as the countdown to her wedding suddenly accelerates.
Determined to survive, Iris steels her resolve to do whatever is within her capability to protect those she loves. Returning to her chambers, Iris quickly sheds her heavy formal wear for a simple dress. Iris ties up her pink hair, preparing to spend the night keeping watch over her fragile friend. Her loyal maid urges her to rest, warning her that looking exhausted will ruin her wedding day. Disregarding the warning, Iris slips out into the dark corridors, determined to check on Lana. She quietly navigates the dimly lit palace, her footsteps echoing softly in the silence. Carrying a single lantern, Iris approaches the quiet bedroom. She cautiously peers inside, hoping to find her friend resting peacefully. She is shocked to find Lana sitting awake in the pitch-black room, looking like a ghost. Lana's blank, lifeless gaze reveals the immense mental torment she is enduring. Heartbroken by the sight, Iris steps forward to offer comfort to her suffering friend. Lana is startled by her arrival, weakly questioning why Iris is visiting her so late. Smiling gently, Iris teases that she couldn't sleep either, treating her like a beloved child. Iris asks about a beautiful hometown melody Lana used to sing to calm her mind. Lana explains that it is an ancient healing song passed down through generations. With a sad smile, Lana reveals the song's true legendary power, a melody capable of healing those they love most. Underneath the suffocating weight of an impending tragedy, trembling hands desperately cling to the sheets as unspoken terrors take hold. Looking back on her family's legacy, Iris reflects on how her parents taught her to respect and cherish foreign cultures. The quiet room holds its breath, draped in the elegant silence of a house guarded by ancient secrets. Soft whispers of history linger around the decorative birdcage, adding a strange tension to the quiet evening. Lana passionately explains her relentless daily effort to preserve the sacred melodies of her extinct heritage. Lana reassures Iris with a warm, determined smile, insisting she remembers every note with absolute clarity. Raising her hand into the warm light, Lana vows that the healing ancient melody will never fade from her memory. Sensing a deeper mystery, Iris gently questions if the legendary song has ever actually saved a dying soul. A heavy silence falls over Lana as her gaze shifts away, leaving the young Duchess to wonder what she is hiding. A sudden sharp thud echoes down the darkened castle corridor, instantly shattering the peaceful nighttime silence. Bone-tired and overwhelmed, Iris returns to her pitch-black chambers, completely drained from her relentless political trials. Barely having enough strength to navigate the dark room, Iris prepares to strip off her heavy gown. Collapsing onto the bed in her fragile nightgown, Iris exhales a heavy sigh of pure exhaustion. Just as she pulls the heavy blankets over herself, a sudden movement in the darkness stops her heart. Reaching out blindly, Iris gasps in shock as her fingers touch a warm, muscular chest right beside her. Absolute terror spikes through Iris's veins as she realizes she is not alone in her bed. Before she can scream for help, a massive, firm hand clamps tightly over her mouth to silence her. Iris struggles desperately against the powerful intruder, only to find herself pulled into a tight, commanding embrace. A familiar voice whispers in her ear, urging her to quiet down and revealing his true identity. As her panic begins to fade, the striking silhouette of her returned fiancé looms in the dark. Theo's piercing blue eyes lock onto her, radiating a quiet intensity that takes her breath away. Theo makes a sudden, subtle move, sending a new wave of nervous tension through the dim room. Heart pounding, Iris stares up in disbelief and weakly calls out her fiancé's name. Unsure if she is dreaming, Iris asks if it is truly him, and Theo quietly confirms his presence. Iris demands to know why he returned in secret, only for Theo to boldly admit he simply missed her too much. Theo explains he staged his quiet arrival to protect her reputation from the watchful eyes of the manor. Iris pieces together that Theo snuck in to cover for her absence, but fell asleep waiting for her return. Her hand trembles in the dark as she realizes how deeply Theo has been working to protect her. Gently reaching out, she softly touches his face to assure herself that this moment is entirely real. Tears of sheer relief well in Iris's eyes as she gazes at her protective fiancé. Overwhelmed by a sudden wave of emotion, she grips the sheets and bows her head. Bowing her head, Iris quietly frets over the impossible task of balancing Lana's health and the Duke's severe demands. Theo's expression turns grave as he abruptly cuts off her anxious thoughts with a sharp observation. The atmosphere shifts to pure embarrassment as Theo suddenly points out her highly revealing lace-trimmed sleepwear. Iris blushes a crimson red, frantically screaming that she had absolutely no idea he was in her bedroom. Stuttering in pure panic, Iris desperately tries to cover herself and insists this is not her usual attire. She internally curses her terrible luck for choosing this exact night to sleep in such fragile nightwear. Theo stares down at her in heavy, loaded silence, his dark gaze unreadable. Scrambling to pull away and find a change of clothes, Iris loses her footing in her frantic haste. Before she can fall, Theo catches her in a swift, incredibly secure embrace that brings them chest to chest. Trapped against him, Iris's face burns red as the intense physical closeness leaves her completely paralyzed. The bedroom falls completely still, thick with a sudden, electrifying romantic tension. Theo gently strokes her long pink hair, sending a warm shiver straight down her spine. With her heart hammering wildly, Iris wonders why on earth he refuses to release his tight grip. Iris attempts to stammer out her gratitude, but a sudden loud rustling noise cuts her off. To her utter shock and confusion, Theo abruptly bundles her up like a massive burrito inside the thick blanket. Left completely immobilized in her soft cocoon, Iris demands to know what he is doing. Theo calmly explains that he wrapped her up to prevent himself from getting any further distractions. Snuggling deep into her blanket cocoon, Iris is left completely overwhelmed by her own burning embarrassment. Dropping his playful demeanor, Theo leans in close and sternly demands to know where she was wandering so late at night, but will she dare reveal Lana's deadly secret? A chilling realization suddenly strikes Iris, freezing her in absolute terror. She desperately urges Theo to understand that Lana's life is in critical danger right now. Theo's blue eyes widen in sheer shock as the terrible truth sinks in. Iris gently explains that his mother's fate is entirely in his hands. A heavy, suffocating silence stretches between them as the dark reality settles in. Outside her room, the palace corridor remains quiet, masking the storm brewing inside. His voice trembling with rage, Theo asks if his mother was truly left to rot. The grim shadow of his mother's complete isolation looms heavily over them. Iris warns that confronting the Duke will only worsen his mother's tragic refusal of care. Theo fiercely clenches his fist, his heart breaking over his mother's forced isolation. A dangerous spark of quiet fury ignites within his sharp blue eyes. Deeply saddened by his immense pain, Iris bows her head in sorrow. Theo lets out a bitter, mocking laugh at their family's twisted cruelty. Iris desperately reassures him that the Duke has already begun altering his severe commands.
Theo's expression darkens as he questions if she expects him to forgive his father.
Fearing his escalating anger, Iris quickly backtracks to clarify her true intentions. Clutching her blankets tightly, Iris decides it is best to remain silent. Theo softly expresses his gratitude, finding a fleeting moment of peace with her. Resolving to take action, Theo turns away to handle his mother's rescue alone. Iris is left entirely alone, her heart heavy with anxiety for him. A long, tense night passes as heavy clouds drift across the dark sky. Sunlit morning arrives, bringing a deceptive calm over the quiet duchy. The peaceful morning is shattered as frantic commotion echoes from down the hall. A panicked maid bursts in, gasping that Theo and the Duke are clashing. Iris freezes in absolute terror, fearing her own advice triggered this violent dispute.
She desperately prays they can find common ground before their impending wedding.
Inside his private study, the stern old Duke sits in calculating silence. Steeling her resolve, Iris prepares to face the formidable elder once more. The massive chandelier hangs silently above, casting long shadows over their meeting. Massaging his temples, the Duke demands to know the truth of Lana's illness. He coolly questions whether Iris revealed the secret to Theo during their meeting. Iris firmly defends her actions, declaring Theo has every right to know. The Duke studies her, highly surprised by her unwavering, bold stance. He grudgingly admits her relationship with his son is stronger than he realized. Iris watches him closely, trying to anticipate his next unpredictable move. A sharp, calculating focus returns to the elder's piercing blue eyes. The Duke drops a massive bombshell, revealing Theo's plans to bring Lana back. He quietly confesses his deep hope that Lana still harbors affection for him. Iris urges him to seize this perfect opportunity to finally reconcile with Theo. The Duke shakes his head, revealing her assumption about their argument is entirely wrong. Iris gasps in complete shock as her carefully laid plans fall apart. He reveals he already agreed to Lana's return to protect his bond with Theo. Bewildered, Iris demands to know what they are actually fighting about. The Duke poses a startling question, wondering what if Theo refuses to have children. Iris's heart hammers with anxiety as she fears his reaction to the truth. The Duke dismisses her, demanding she find the truth directly from Theo. Her hand trembles in fear over the dangerous secrets between father and son. Walking away, Iris desperately hopes this dangerous conflict will pass them by. Alone in his grand study, the Duke remains deeply lost in thought. He quietly hopes Lana will soon return to where she truly belongs. Shocking secrets unravel as Iris confronts a truth she was never meant to discover, faltering over her words when faced with the Duke's sudden confrontation. The old Duke sternly demands to know who will maintain appearances and escort the family if she leaves. Yielding to his crushing authority, Iris reluctantly bows her head and promises to obey his harsh command. With a sharp click, the heavy doors slam shut, sealing her fate inside the quiet corridor. Walking away, Iris marvels at how much the Duke is softened, noting he would have never agreed to this before. A sudden clatter echoes through the silent manor as a fresh tray of tea is carefully prepared. Fueling her resolve to never give up, Iris hastens to quickly prepare Lady Lana's travel luggage. High-stakes tension mounts as plans for a sudden journey to the capital begin to take shape. Iris meticulously organizes every detail of the room to ensure nothing of value is left behind. Pausing in her tracks, she senses a quiet presence lingering behind a nearby door. Cracking the heavy door open, she cautiously peers inside and calls out for Lady Lana. Inside the dimly lit chamber, she discovers Theo keeping a silent, protective watch over his bedridden mother. Relieved to see them together, Iris realizes she can finally step back from her constant care duties. Her sudden departure catches the maid off guard, who quickly asks if something is wrong. Walking down the corridor, Iris remains shocked by how abruptly the Grand Duke decided to return. She quietly reflects on his silent arrival, keeping his return a total secret from the household. She reassures herself that keeping Lana hidden in the main manor was the absolute right decision. Watching the closed door, Iris wonders if the long-separated mother and son have finally found peace. A sudden, breathtaking memory from the previous night flashes through her mind, stopping her cold. The lingering magical warmth of Theo's tight embrace returns to overwhelm her senses. Blushing a furious crimson, Iris frantically covers her face to hide her intense embarrassment. The sudden sound of approaching footsteps instantly shatters her romantic daydream. Iris chides herself for being far too sensitive over her private fluttering feelings. Gasping in surprise, she looks up to find a stranger standing directly in her path. A mysterious blonde guest stands before her, looking down with an incredibly amused smirk. The young man lets out a cheerful chuckle at her startled and defensive reaction. Iris demands to know his identity, only for the blonde stranger to reveal he is Theo's close friend from the capital. Highly skeptical of his claims, Iris doubts his story since she knows all of Theo's true allies. The blonde guest silently studies her, amused by how well Theo hid such an extraordinary beauty. Maintaining her noble poise, Iris coldly reminds him to observe proper etiquette as a guest. Laughing off her icy reception, the charming stranger playfully apologizes for his lack of manners. His guard quickly steps in to apologize for his master's tactless behavior, which Iris quietly brushes off. Watching him wander the castle without restraint, Iris desperately wonders who this mysterious man truly is. An intense, silent gaze stretches between them as she tries to read his intentions. The enigmatic blonde man turns to leave, his carefree attitude masking a deeper calculation. Clenching her hands, Iris decides it is far safer to just ignore him and walk away. She reasons that staying out of his business is the only way to avoid trouble. The blonde guest suddenly stops her, questioning the origins of the highly unusual necklace she wears. He raises an eyebrow, boldly asking if her parents were actually foreigners from outside the empire. Iris freezes in absolute shock, horrified that a complete stranger has recognized her family's deepest secret. The guest explains his worldly profession allows him to recognize rare ancient items from foreign cultures. He notes her parents must have been highly knowledgeable about lands far beyond the empire's borders. He flashes a bright, friendly smile, trying to ease the sudden, suffocating tension between them. Brushing past him in a panic, Iris struggles to maintain her composure as her past threatens to catch up. A vivid memory of her sacred foreign heritage flashes back, threatening to expose everything she has hidden. The blonde man's playful facade completely vanishes, replaced by a chillingly sharp, dangerous focus. Seeing her sudden, pale expression, the guest becomes startled and asks if she is all right. Flustered by her silence, the young man frantically searches his pockets to find a way to help. He quickly offers her a handkerchief, apologizing for overstepping his bounds and causing her distress. Sensing the heavy secret looming over her, the mysterious guest is left wondering what dangerous truth his playful questions just unearthed, leaving viewers desperately waiting to see if Iris's hidden heritage will finally be exposed to the Empire. A dangerous secret threatens to shatter her fragile facade as her past catches up to her. Clutching her dark dress, Iris tries to hide her mounting panic from him. Heavy tears stream down Iris's face as the sudden emotional weight overwhelms her. The blonde guest frantically apologizes, offering his handkerchief to soothe her unexpected tears. He gently coaxes her to head inside, though she softly refuses his help. Escaping his gaze, Iris hurries back to her room in absolute distress. Quiet shadows stretch across the empty manor as she seeks solitude. Heartbroken sobbing echoes through the silent hallways of her private quarters. Iris collapses onto her bed, completely crushed by her painful memories. She weeps bitterly, grieving her lost parents and her heavy secret heritage. Gripping the bedsheets tightly, Iris blames herself for being a terrible daughter. A familiar voice suddenly calls her name, startling her out of her despair. Iris quickly turns around, trying to wipe away her fresh tears. She is stunned to see Theo standing quietly in her doorway. A tense, silent stare passes between them as Theo studies her tear-stained face. Theo coldly instructs her to eat in her room while he handles the arriving guests. Knowing the guests are here for their wedding, Iris wonders if she should hide her face. Theo suggests using an ice pack to quickly soothe her swollen eyes. Iris looks up in silence, deeply hurt by his distant, detached tone. Theo dryly claims he is only looking out for her well-being. Stunned by his coldness, Iris stares at him in disbelief. Iris firmly declares she must perform her duties as the castle's hostess. She feels a bitter sting, wishing he would show genuine concern for her tears. Theo suddenly shifts focus, pointing out her unusual necklace. Iris quickly lies that her foreign necklace was simply damaged and remodeled. He commands her to wear it constantly once they are officially wed. She weakly agrees, her grip tightening as memories of her parents resurface. Theo looks away in silence, his expression unreadable and cold. He abruptly reminds her of their strict agreement never to have children. Iris clenches her fist, struggling to decipher his true hidden motives. Theo demands she wear a different ceremonial gift tomorrow to avoid gossiping guests. Offended by his disregard for her parents' relic, Iris bitterly tells him to leave. She fondly recalls the fleeting moments when Theo actually showed her warmth. Iris sadly concludes she was mistaken about them growing closer. Theo stands in silent contemplation, hiding his own complex emotions from her. A deep sigh escapes her lips as she is left alone once more. Iris quietly reflects on how perfectly Theo fits the icy northern region. Meanwhile, a bustling crowd of noble guests begins arriving at Morpay Castle. The aristocrats gossip about the estate's impressive history and classic grandeur. They whisper excitedly about the surprise arrival of the crown prince. The guests look around, wondering where the prince and Theo have slipped away to. Outside in the cold gardens, the winter breeze sweeps across the bridge. Shivering in the freezing wind, the blonde prince complains about the intense cold. Theo approaches, asking why he is walking outside if he cannot handle the cold. Theo drapes a warm coat over the blonde prince's shoulders. He sternly reminds the prince not to drink alcohol due to his broken arm. The blonde prince smiles, admitting he escaped to avoid being forced to drink. Theo notes he purposely covered for him to keep others from noticing. The blonde prince asks if his arm is healed, thanking Theo for his sharp perception. He playfully wishes Theo would put the same effort into his official duties, leaving viewers eager to see how this mysterious alliance unfolds at the upcoming wedding. Theo bluntly confirms his chillingly calculated decision, solidifying his absolute control over the situation. Despite the severe pain of his unhealed wounds, he admits to recklessly tearing away his protective bandages too early. The blonde prince lets out a weak cough, struggling to hide his physical exhaustion from his companion. He stubbornly downplays his failing condition, insisting that he is perfectly fine despite his obvious strain. The prince can only sigh at his friend's incredibly stubborn and uncompromising nature. A tense conversation arises in the courtyard over the humiliation the groom would face if he cannot sign his vows. The prince is left completely stunned when Theo reveals he signed the commitment letter long ago. They analyze the complex legal barriers of divorce, revealing why delaying the formal vows was a strategic shield. A bittersweet memory of a past dance flashes, highlighting the strict, unyielding expectations of their noble status. The prince reluctantly admits that the Duke of Morpeth indeed selected the perfect bride for him. While gossiping nobles debate her upbringing, they whisper that her flawless elegance stems from her true noble bloodline. Theo coldly asserts that in their high society world, calculated political marriages always override personal feelings. Dismissing the prince's warnings about their unprecedented arrangement, Theo abruptly leaves to manage his arriving guests. The prince asks if Iris is truly all right, raising concerns about her fragile state under the wedding stress. In a hushed whisper, the prince confesses to being the one who drove Iris to tears in the garden. Theo's dark eyes narrow with hidden rage upon discovering the true culprit behind Iris's breakdown. When the prince jokingly warns that love is making him look terrifying, Theo flatly rejects the notion. He darkly explains that his intense obsession is far from a sweet, gentle emotion like love. The prince openly scoffs at Theo's cold denial, calling his stubborn attitude completely foolish. Theo meets his gaze with a chillingly blank, stone-cold expression that reveals absolutely nothing. A heavy, dark aura flares around Theo, confirming to the prince that his feelings are incredibly dangerous. The blonde prince finds his friend's intense, frustrating denial both highly amusing and deeply annoying. He details how his casual questions about her unique necklace triggered her sudden, painful tears over her past. Pitying the heavy burden of marrying an icy duke, the prince declares his desire to personally compensate her. Theo bluntly shuts him down, asserting that the prince's actions were not the cause of her tears. Feeling slightly guilty, the prince reluctantly agrees to drop the matter and trust Theo's word. An attendant named Henson rushes up to assist as the prince decides it is time to head inside. Draping his golden cloak on, the prince mutters that the heartless duke desperately deserves a good punch. Voices in the wind debate the duke's cold nature, noting that while he cannot love, his loyalty is absolute. The prince sighs in frustration, thoroughly dissatisfied with his friend's emotionally distant and stubborn attitude. A sharp, calculating focus flashes in the prince's eyes as he quietly plots his next move. Lost in silent thought, the chibi prince struggles to process his friend's baffling lack of emotion. Out of sheer frustration, the prince dramatically orders Henson to prepare a special wedding gift exclusively for Iris. Meanwhile, a quiet and heavy silence settles over the empty, dimly lit corridors of the manor. A sudden presence stirs in the quiet chambers, marking a shocking shift in the household's dynamic. Lady Lana, with her vibrant red hair, smiles warmly as she mistakes the incoming visitor for Iris. Theo steps forward, his stoic mask softening slightly as he quietly announces his return to his mother. Overcome with pure emotion, Lana throws her arms around her long-separated son in a tight embrace. She immediately pulls back, eagerly asking why Iris has not come to visit her alongside him. Theo firmly commands her to stop calling for Iris, insisting that he is here to take care of her. Grabbing her shoulder, he desperately warns his mother not to place any more heavy burdens on Iris. Theo's eyes glaze with deep sorrow as he recalls the grueling sacrifices Iris made for his family. A chilling memory of a past threat flashes, warning of the Grand Duke's cruel plans to drag Iris to the capital. The memory of the Grand Duke's mocking sarcasm and sadistic control fuels a blinding, silent fury in Theo's mind. He clenches his jaw in bitter self-loathing, cursing himself for foolishly trusting in others' lives for so long. The shadow of Mia's sinister, manipulative lies resurfaces, revealing how she falsely claimed she would neglect his mother. Lana desperately defends Iris, tearfully explaining that Iris was genuinely happy to care for her like a mother. She tearfully chides Theo, calling him a bad child for speaking ill of the girl who loves them so much. Theo fiercely argues that even if Iris cares for them, their family only brings her endless danger and trouble. With a heartbreaking look, Lana declares this marriage is the greatest blessing she could ask for, leaving viewers desperately waiting to see if Theo will finally let down his guard and accept Iris's love before the grand wedding begins. The cold weight of past secrets hangs heavy in the quiet room as Theo recalls a crucial name that changes everything. He holds a letter, his mind replaying her voice echoing in his memories. Staring down with cold resolve, Theo accepts that her fate is permanently tied to his. In the quiet morning, a sunlit dressing table stands adorned with elegant ornaments and jewelry. Gently brushing her vibrant pink hair, Iris reflects on her decision to avoid yesterday's dinner. The blonde maid gasps in surprise, worried by the visible swelling around Iris's eyes.
Iris downcastly admits she struggled to stop her tears after holding them back for so long.
Brushing her long pink hair, Iris reluctantly agrees that Theo's practical advice was correct. Iris carefully presses a cool blue compress to her face to soothe her swollen eyes. The maid praises Theo's excellent hosting skills, noting his polite demeanor with the guests. Appreciating the reassuring update, Iris feels a quiet sense of relief. Close-up of Iris's striking blue eyes reveals her deep, lingering anxiety. Iris adjusts her white collar, revealing her treasured gold memento necklace. Looking down, she reflects on the heavy expectations of wearing her family relic. Iris decides to choose a different accessory to avoid gossip from the guests. The blonde maid excitedly suggests using the brilliant blue sapphire instead. Sitting gracefully in her room, Iris waits as the final preparations are made. The maid gently fastens the blue sapphire, praising Theo's meticulous selection. The dressing table remains decorated with various perfumes and polished mirrors. Iris quietly agrees with the maid's praise of Theo's attentiveness. Looking at her reflection, Iris notices the sapphire perfectly matches Theo's eye color. She touches the blue gem, realizing its strategic role in projecting a loving marriage. Under the grand chandelier, Iris resolves to put on a convincing display of affection.
Stepping into the quiet hallway, Iris heads toward the guest chambers. She gasps in surprise as an unexpected figure blocks her path.
Iris tightly clutches her blue gown, trying to regain her composure. Iris bows respectfully, formally greeting the blonde crowned prince as he smiles warmly. The prince notes her swollen eyes, while Iris embarrassedly attributes it to oversleeping. The crown prince quickly clarifies his remark, wanting to put her at ease. Iris looks up in confusion at the prince's sudden change of tone. Shrugging playfully, the prince compares her rigid, defensive nature to Theo's stiff behavior. Iris is surprised by the prince's unusually warm and casual demeanor. In a comical chibi moment, Iris reflects on the unexpected comparison between her and Theo. The blonde prince turns his head sharply as footsteps approach down the hall. Iris gasps in shock as a cold, commanding voice calls out to her. Theo steps forward in his elegant gray suit, formally greeting the royal guest. Theo declines the prince's friendly breakfast invitation, citing a prearranged schedule. Iris realizes Theo is deliberately keeping her isolated from the prince's casual inquiries. Iris tries to smooth over the awkwardness by suggesting alternative dining arrangements. The crown prince reacts with sheer bewilderment to the couple's intense secrecy. Iris turns her head in silent frustration, feeling the weight of their complicated situation. The heavy silence of the corridor is broken by the sound of approaching footsteps. Iris clenches her fist, deeply hurt by the continuous web of lies and secrets. A polished shoe steps forward onto the tiled floor, announcing a new arrival. The distinguished gray-haired Duke Morpay steps in, offering a friendly resolution to the tension. Duke Morpay warmly insists that they all enjoy a morning meal together. The grand dining hall stands open, illuminated by a magnificent golden chandelier. Sun streams through the tall windows, signaling the start of a busy wedding day. The prince remarks on Theo's immense luck in finding such an elegant bride. The crown prince laughs heartily at the dining table while Iris gracefully offers her thanks. The dining table becomes a battlefield of secrets as the blonde crown prince delivers a sharp tease, only for Theo to drop a shocking revelation about his own rejection. Shrugging casually, the prince explains the political machinations behind the lady's sudden decision to call off their potential union. The golden-haired royal complains about the social fallout of taking the blame for her tears, leaving the gray-haired Duke Morp deeply intrigued. Listening in silence, the pink-haired Iris freezes as the prince reveals how the lady eventually found her true happiness elsewhere. Setting his glass down, Duke Morpay somberly remarks on the absolute, unyielding power of a mother's devotion. The blonde prince laughs off the heavy mood and boldly asks if this story matches the Duke's own family history. As a steak is sliced at the table, Duke Morp coldly comments on his nephew acting independently after his mother went astray. The prince praises Duke Morp's sharp instincts before turning his curious gaze toward the exceptionally elegant Iris. Looking up at the grand ceiling, Duke Morp sighs over his lack of blood relatives, raising questions about his true intentions. The conversation turns incredibly direct as the prince points out the Duke's obvious satisfaction with Iris's presence. In a daring, high-stakes move, the crown prince playfully challenges the Duke, asking if he can claim Iris for himself. Terror grips Iris as she hears the prince's outrageous proposal, her heart pounding in raw panic. Theo's expression freezes into a terrifying icy glare as his protective instincts flare. Duke Morpay immediately shuts down the prince's dangerous joke with a stern warning remark. The prince casually remarks on the lack of romantic sparks, comparing Theo and Iris's bond to that of distant siblings. The prince smiles warmly, explaining that the imperial palace will fully support their union once the marriage is officially sealed. Feeling like a mere political pawn, Iris sinks deeper into a sea of quiet despair. Clenching her fists, Iris realizes the painful truth behind the grand illusion she is forced to play. She accepts that she is nothing more than a bargaining chip, easily traded away if it benefits the Duke's ambitions. Turning his gaze back, the prince demands to hear Theo's thoughts on the matter, putting him on the spot. Theo remains stone-faced, refusing to let his true feelings slip through his cold composure. A heavy, dangerous tension hangs in the air as Theo prepares to respond to the provocation.
Theo's devastating question echoes through Iris's mind, shattering any hope of him defending her.
A crushing realization strikes Iris as the brutal coldness of her reality sets in. The prince shrugs playfully, proving that dodging awkward dinner questions is truly a royal art form. He mockingly points out how Theo's absolute obedience to the Duke overrides any personal feelings. Unable to bear the suffocating atmosphere any longer, Iris hurries away down the dimly lit corridors. Her escape is suddenly cut short as a pair of polished boots step into her path. The prince offers a rare, gentle apology for his reckless behavior at the table, which Iris politely accepts. The prince drops a massive bombshell, revealing to a stunned Iris that Theo has sustained a serious hand injury. Hearing that Theo broke his hand while saving the prince from a horse fall, Iris is overwhelmed by deep worry. The prince explains that the long journey worsened the injury and apologizes for his role in Theo's recent anger. Iris stands frozen as the pieces of the puzzle finally begin to fall into place. Everything clicks as she realizes why Theo ignored her letter she was physically unable to write. Hurt and frustrated by his needless secrecy, Iris runs to find him, desperate for answers. Spotting Theo walking down the quiet corridor, Iris calls out his name, stopping him in his tracks. Theo turns around in surprise, staring at the breathless young woman who has chased him down. Seeing her carrying a heavy basket to his mother's chambers, Theo immediately tries to take it from her, but she firmly refuses. As Theo reaches out again, Iris sharply slaps his hand away to protect his injured fingers. Theo winces in sudden pain as the contact jars his broken hand, confirming her worst fears. Heartbroken, Iris confronts him directly, asking if his agonizing injury is indeed her fault. She reveals she knows about the incident in her room, asking if the strain has caused the old wound to flare up. Theo stubbornly tries to deny the connection, but Iris points out that his inability to lift the basket exposes his lie. Iris demands to know why he hid his suffering, insisting that his silence is proof of his guilt and pain over her. Theo speaks her full name, his voice dropping to a low, commanding register that halts her breath. The words cut like a knife as Theo coldly reminds her of the harsh boundaries of their contractual marriage. Trembling with a mixture of anger and grief, Iris refuses to back down from the icy Duke. Iris fires back with pure emotion, declaring her deep love for his mother regardless of their artificial agreement. She fiercely asserts that her care for his family is her own choice, completely beyond his control or commands. Reclaiming her power, Iris boldly reminds him that she is still his lawful wife, leaving viewers on the ultimate cliffhanger to see if this fiery confession will finally shatter the Icy Duke's defenses. Shattering the icy silence, Iris fiercely demands that Theo stand his ground and fulfill his duty to protect her. Tearfully, Iris laments her position, deeply hurt that her husband would dismiss his own worth and ignore her safety. In a lighter chibi moment, a bewildered Theo asks why she is looking at him with such intense sorrow. Theo admits it is the first time he has ever heard her raise her voice so passionately. Gasps of shock escape Iris as she quickly covers her mouth, mortified by her own sudden outburst. To her utter disbelief, the cold Duke actually steps back and offers a sincere, humble apology. Theo gently explains that his hand injury was entirely his own fault and insists he never meant to disrespect her. Iris questions why he would keep such a serious royal rescue a secret from everyone in the capital. In another playful chibi flashback, Theo confesses he broke his hand simply trying to drag the lazy prince back to work. They both realize that the ruthless Duke would undoubtedly find a way to blame Theo for the accident. Iris gently assures him that he holds no responsibility for his past actions in her room. Clenching her basket tightly, Iris declares her firm decision to help him regardless of past guilt. She voices her earnest desire to repay the kindness of the only woman who welcomed her at Morpy Castle. Theo's expression turns solemn as her words touch a chord deep within his guarded heart. The silence stretches between them as a subtle tension mounts in the quiet corridor. Theo coldly reminds her that his mother is his concern alone, telling her to stop worrying. Despite his cold words, Theo's tightly clenched fist betrays the storm of emotions raging inside him. Iris gasps in horror as Theo threatens to leave her behind at the castle with the Duke. He questions whether her sudden anger was sparked by his harsh decision to leave her behind. Iris worries about Lady Lana's failing health, knowing Theo only raised his voice out of deep concern. A sudden chilling realization flashes in Iris's eyes as she pieces together the dark truth. She laments her delayed arrival at the castle, realizing how her absence played into the Duke's schemes. The puzzle pieces fall into place, exposing the high stakes of their arranged marriage. Iris understands that having a child would free Lana, but the child would be trapped by the Duke. Under a crimson haze of panic, Iris struggles with the horrifying pressure to produce an heir. Trembling with absolute dread, Iris questions if she must sacrifice her own body to save his mother. Pure terror grips Iris as she fears that bearing Theo's child might ultimately lead to her death. Looking at Theo, she realizes the brutal reality of the deadly trap they are caught in. Theo firmly promises to handle everything himself, ordering her to stop carrying his burdens. Tears of sorrow spill over as Iris realizes just how monstrously cruel the Duke truly is. Trapped in darkness, Iris despairs over having absolutely no control over her own tragic destiny. Shifting to the grand wedding day, the cheerful prince warmly welcomes an unexpected noble guest. A polished shoe steps forward onto the pavement, signaling the arrival of a new player. The charming green-haired Erwin Brisbane politely corrects the prince, revealing his true identity. In a comical chibi moment, Erwin explains he was formally invited to the grand ceremony. The green-haired nobleman is formally recognized by the crowd as Erwin Brisbane. Erwin extends his warmest congratulations to Theo, shaking his hand in front of the guests. Erwin turns to Iris, playfully teasing her about her newly elevated noble status. Iris gracefully brushes off the tease, thanking him for making the long journey. The prince learns that Erwin and Iris were actually close classmates during their academy days. Erwin laughs at how incredibly stiff and formal their academy reunion feels. The prince and Erwin walk away together, leaving the awkward couple in peace. Iris silently watches the two men depart, a quiet tension lingering in the air. The prince's parting words promise another dramatic encounter at the upcoming evening party. Theo questions her relationship with Erwin, prompting Iris to reveal they met through a woman named Mia. The mention of Mia's name instantly freezes Theo, his eyes widening in pure shock. Iris recalls the tragic banishment of Mia from the Duke's formidable castle. Wondering if Theo still harbors deep feelings for Mia, Iris quietly walks away first. The magnificent white castle stands tall, masking the dark secrets hidden within its walls. Inside, the silent corridors hold a heavy, suspenseful breath as the wedding day unfolds. Duke Morph's chilling gaze locks onto his target as a dark reckoning begins inside the castle walls. The Duke coldly welcomes the banished Mia back into his presence, setting a menacing tone. Bowing deeply, Mia respectfully greets the intimidating Duke, masking her inner terror with perfect etiquette. When the Duke demands to know if she has repented, Mia desperately pleads her complete innocence. Sobbing, Mia claims she was merely a victim of a devious trap orchestrated by Iris. Mia explains that Iris intentionally provoked her to make her lose control in front of him. The Duke's icy gaze intensifies as he skeptically questions Iris's true motives for such a scheme. Mia freezes in pure panic, completely caught off guard by the Duke's piercing deduction. Clenching her skirt, Mia stammers that she believed her return meant forgiveness because of Theo's lingering affection. The Duke ruthlessly dismantles her lies, pointing out the logical flaws in her desperate excuses. Shamed and defeated, Mia sinks into a sullen silence as her web of lies unravels. A wave of absolute terror strikes Mia as the Duke calmly threatens to sever her tongue. The cold-hearted Duke reminds her of his strict warning never to mention Iris and Theo again. He delivers a chilling proverb, warning that her body must suffer for her mind's ignorance. Collapsing to her knees, Mia desperately begs for mercy, terrified he will execute his gruesome threat. Trembling violently on the cold floor, she begs for just one last chance to redeem herself. The Duke scoffs at her wasted beauty, lamely wishing her deceptive character matched her lovely face. The Duke secretly calculates his next move, noting the Crown Prince's growing satisfaction with Iris. He observes the subtle undercurrents of desire lingering beneath Iris and Theo's public bickering. Tapping his fingers, the Duke weighs the immense political power of Iris potentially becoming the Crown Princess. Watching Mia cower, the Duke completely discards her as a pawn, deeming her lies too amateurish. Letting out an exhausted sigh, the Duke dismisses the trembling girl, finding her useless to his ambitions. Mia attempts to negotiate her banishment, shooting him a desperate covert glance. With a terrifying glare, the Duke barks at her to leave before he loses his patience completely. Mia turns and flees the chamber in a blind panic, terrified for her life. Fleeing down the corridor, Mia seethes with jealousy, refusing to accept that Iris could ever surpass her. Catching her breath, Mia fanatically insists that Theo's side is her rightful place, not Iris's. She desperately plots to seize control of Theo and the entire estate, realizing she must act immediately. Suddenly, a rustling sound cuts through the dark corridor as a voice calls her name, freezing her in her tracks. The green-haired nobleman, Erwin Brisbane, steps out of the shadows, ready to make his next move. With a charming, knowing smile, Erwin signals the start of a dangerous new alliance. Mia beams with dark triumph, realizing she has found the perfect accomplice for her scheme. Erwin is suddenly startled as the Crown Prince appears behind him, disrupting their secretive plotting. Mia quickly pretends they are complete strangers, while the unsuspecting prince politely steps away. Erwin loudly offers to guide her around the north, keeping up their public facade. They exchange polite pleasantries, hiding their dark secrets under the guise of casual conversation. Erwin warmly mentions an upcoming picnic, sparking a sudden realization in Mia's mind. Mia's eye glints with pure malice as a devious new plan begins to take shape. A wicked smile spreads across her face as she plots to crash the gathering. Erwin watches her with mild confusion as she vows to witness the truth for herself. Instantly mask on, Mia sweetly warns him to stay warm in the harsh northern climate, leaving viewers on the ultimate cliffhanger as the stage is set for a chaotic confrontation at the upcoming royal picnic.